right, listeners, welcome back to the Peripheral Views podcast. We're doing another one. Back in the airways with you. This is a new episode in a new series. This is number 6. I am your host, Jake, and with me tonight is our co-host, Erroll. What's going on, Erroll?
Ooh, you know me. I'm around for the ride.
We got a new one today, bud. It's great. It's we're gonna plug into the ranking show series. This is gonna include a lot of different topics. We're gonna dissect and plug in our rankings. I'm sure that as more people get their eyes on our rankings. You know what the thing about rankings and lists are is that they're like intensely controversial in like the internet sphere, which is like, I mean, that's fine because it's just
I
because
mean,
everybody's
I
got
don't,
their own ranking.
but I don't think they need to be so polarizing. Like,
No, it's
you know what I
opinionated,
mean?
right? It's an opinion. But anyway, so that's what we're gonna do today. Today on today's ranking show, number 1, the first one in the series, so we made a couple of little adjustments just as a disclaimer before we get rolling here. We nixed a part of our of the development on this episode. We were originally going to do a top 10 UFC moments of all time. We deem that to be pretty intense as a topic, and especially as a ranking. The sport's not super old; it's a pretty young sport, and it's probably doable. Unfortunately, though, we're going to push that part of the podcast back a touch, and we'll circle back to it probably the next couple of weeks or months. We'll come back to that one and try it again, but we wanted to trim this one down, and that one probably deserves its own podcast because it's going to be it's a big topic, and there's a lot to choose from and a lot of discussion to have around that. So we wanted to make sure we could dedicate a whole episode to that. So instead, the first part that we announced in the previous episode, we're going to actually take on in this recording tonight, and that's going to be the top 5 UFC moments of the 2023 calendar year so far. That trims things down, makes it a little easier for us to talk about, discuss. And then when we get through all of that, we've got a surprise bonus. We've got a bonus segment at the very end of this podcast we're going to dive into. In that, Errol, should we announce it now or should we wait?
Yeah, no, we can. I think we
Let's
can
drop
wait.
it. By the time we
Okay.
release this, it'll be in the title. We'll drop it. So what we're gonna do in the final segment of this episode, and we'll put it in the title so we can titillate future viewers, is going to be we're gonna put together. So right now, UFC just experienced their UFC 290 card, International Fight Week. It was a big card. We're gonna talk about that. But coming down the pike here in a matter of months is going to be UFC 300, which is always a big event when they get to that round numbered event. When UFC 100 was big, UFC 200 was bigger. I would imagine they're going all out, pulling the brake pads off of for UFC 300 coming up next year, probably looking like around March or maybe April of next year. So Errol and I are going to put together a fantasy UFC 300 main card. We're not going to do prelims. We might, if we plug in a couple of honorable mentions in there, it'll be, improvised. But we've officially plugged in our UFC 300 main card, 5-fight card. And we're going to do that as our final little bonus segment after we do the top 5 of the UFC moments of the year. So, Errol, you pumped about this? What do you think?
Yes, I'm really excited about this whole thing. I consider myself a casual fan, but I love the wonton melee, and I like the so it's kind of so a lot like boxing with like the sweet science. I like the wonton melee, and I like the technicality behind the sport because like you could be the biggest baddest person just like punching people like a Sonny Liston. You could just be the strongest person on the block,
Arturo Gatti
which
style.
right. But there's going to be someone who has your number, and it's just it's
It's a matter of
crazy to watch
time.
unfold. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, boxing is one of those sports where between boxing and UFC, they're both pretty much on top of I shouldn't say pretty much, they definitely are on top of the combat sports realm. And it seems like MMA, I should say MMA in boxing, but specifically UFC is pretty much the go-to promotion for anything MMA. I mean, obviously there's Bellator and One and PFL, and there's a lot of options for
there
MMA.
was Pride. which
Pride
was,
back
oh
in the
my
day.
god,
Yeah.
barbaric.
Right. Yeah. Well, one championship, with the
One
Singapore
FC, yeah,
promotion.
it's pretty
One
much the
FC is
same.
it's like kind of like Pride. It's
Yeah,
not
pretty
not
much the
quite,
same.
but pretty close. And they do a lot. Have you ever seen they've done like mixed rules, where they'll alternate
Yeah,
rounds?
yeah. If there's like a specialty fight, they'll do
Mhm.
special rules.
Yeah, they've done like I remember DJ, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. He fought he did a Muay Thai against, Rod Tang, which was like it was like a Muay Thai round
Ooh.
and then a MMA round, then a Muay Thai round, then an MMA round, and people thought like if he can get out of the Muay Thai round, he's gonna be all set because he can just take. Rod Tang is a Muay Thai fighter, and he
Yeah,
ended
so
up
you have no
fucking
ground game.
yeah, he got through that first round, and I think he did get a finish in the second round, but that's DJ because that might be
Dude,
the
and
best fighter ever.
Rodtang is no joke.
No, no, he's got like a million
There is
fucking UFC.
probably one or two other names that are like right around Rodtang, but I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, with my ignorance in Muay Thai fighting, Rodtang is like the number one. Like, or
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's the most well known. I don't know, like it's hard to tell because like Muay
oh,
Thai
but he
fighters.
was, if I'm not mistaken, he was beaten by some British guy. Hold on,
Oh,
I'll look it up.
recently, yeah, I think
Yeah,
recently potentially. Yeah, he just fought pretty recently, but he's got like Muay Thai fighters. They fight like 350 times in their career, sometimes more, like in their throughout a career because it's just that kind of fighting. Um, but yeah, he was a savage, and DJ was a savage too. But yeah, let's dive into the housekeeping, shall we? Let's do a little touch and go on this stuff. All the same usual points of contact for us. You can find us at Twitter at peripheralv123. Hit us up on SoundCloud to catch one of our streams, soundcloud.com/peripheralviews123. You can contact either one, Jake or Erroll, at peripheralviewspodcast@gmail.com. That's our email address. Um, if you stumble upon us on SoundCloud or on Twitter and you're looking to hear us a little bit more accessibly, you can find us at the, Apple Podcast and Spotify apps. Just plug us into that search bar. And if you do listen and you listen regularly, feel free to hit that notification bell and the subscription. And specifically on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a positive review and a positive rating. I think that's going to do us a lot of help. And we really appreciate any support you guys can offer, for our current listeners. We do have wanted to announce this, to you, Errol. Not so much a endorsement's the wrong word, but we've been permitted the use of
we got we
music.
got greenlit.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a green light from a really cool band that I actually had, mentioned in a previous podcast. They're called Elephant Sessions. They're from Scotland. They're like almost neo traditional sounding. They're like it's folk, but it has a modern spin on it, and they use some like traditional Scottish folk instruments. Like, I believe like a fiddle type of string instrument, but they mix it with some electric synth stuff. It's really good music, and it's purely instrumental. It's great for like whatever you're doing, whether you're driving or working on something or writing, whatever it is. Their music's just a awesome addition to whatever it is that you're doing. If you want to, give them a check out, they're on Spotify, YouTube, Bandcamp, I believe Apple Music. So check that band out. They're a great bunch of lads, and I really appreciate they're giving us their permission to use some of their music throughout. And I'll plug it in this episode specifically. There are 3 songs I'm going to use, in the interlude. So, and I'll make sure to actually maybe link them on one of our pages. The 3 tracks we're going to use on this episode are going to be a track called Summer, a track called, Is This a Vibe, and a track called Colors. So I'll plug those in our breaks. And if you guys like them, if you're interested to hear more from them, they are on those platforms. So that's it for the housekeeping. I did have a couple of tidbits. Errol, I wanted to ask you, on the air here. Did you happen to see today released? I know we talk film a lot, so I want to touch this before we get rolling. Did you see that the Ridley Scott's, new film
Napoleon.
Napoleon, the trailer released?
Yeah.
Did you see the trailer? What did you think?
Yeah, dude, dude, it looked nice. It looked I'm a sucker. I'm gonna be a sucker for anything with Joaquin Phoenix. But
Yeah,
like,
right.
dude,
Of course.
it looked. I don't want to say perfect, but I want to say perfect. Like, it looked authentic. It
Yeah, you know
looked
what the battle scenes were like? What like those battle scenes look next level, right? like
And then like
upgraded
uh
next level.
showing them posting up on the pyramids. Like
Yeah, right. Yeah,
do you know the
those northern
story?
African battles. Yeah, he
Yeah.
conquered northern Africa, and
Um I get so other than just like, conquering it and just being like F you guys and like blowing up the pyramids, um I hear there's racial connotations to why they solely just blew off the nose to the
oh,
Sphinx.
really interesting.
Yes.
They did show that in the trailer too.
Yeah, it
Wow,
was already missing the nose. So I'm
interesting.
excited to see exactly how they portray it because they were in Egypt. It was Egyptians as Africans. I guess the nose was depicted like a wider, like a bowed nose.
Oh, and he so Napoleon. Well, Napoleon was like a obviously brutal imperialist. So like you got to imagine his like takes on race were not probably like
Right. So
he probably wasn't espousing like equality.
you see a giant structure that's like erected, and it just like it shows the creativity and like just the manpower behind like whoever built it.
Right, of
And like,
course.
like what does France have now? The Eiffel Tower? I mean, come on, there's no Sphinx, there's no pyramids. Like that's
No,
why they're
yeah,
sending
and I
shots
mean, they
at
gave
it.
us the
Like,
Statue of Liberty, and they even that is
yeah,
like
they did.
it's
They
like
gave
steel and
us that.
shit.
But yeah, well, like compare that to the pyramids. The Statue
Right.
of Liberty may last like without any upkeep. Like, come on, that thing's like 500 years. Like, like
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
rust
you
from
got
the
the
ocean.
pyramid. The pyramids are. I'm boy. We could. That's another episode. That's like 10 episodes right there to like talk about their significance and like the mystery around them. But we can go down that road for sure.
We
What did you
could
think
go into
about?
it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you what you thought about the casting. Like, obviously, everybody loves Joaquin Phoenix, but and there's no like photographic evidence of what Napoleon looked like, obviously, because it predates like photography and film. So I'm
Yeah, but
wondering, based
I
on the
imagine.
paintings, what do you think about that casting? I mean, he doesn't
Well,
look that far off.
right. I think that the casting is accurate due to the paintings, and also I would go so far as to say that the paintings, while they may be a exaggeration to a degree, I think they're accurate. That's one of the best things you can do, like, as a ruler, is just have like your actual face, like, like your caricature. You want to see yourself. You don't want to see a like a version of yourself that's not really you. You want to see something that you're like confident in. So I'm with how like narcissistic you need to be like just the ruler of a nation, or like feel like you deserve to
Yeah,
be. I'm
right.
positive that those those paintings are not far off. I don't believe that those paintings are far off.
Well, it's
Unless like he
interesting
had some
because
kind of horrible deformity.
yeah, well, it's interesting because I'm reading here, and this is so fascinating, and like I don't want to go too long on this part, but like I'm also reading as we're like opening this up about especially about the Sphinx. There's an actual painting, an oil painting of Bonaparte. It's called Bonaparte before the Sphinx.
Hmm.
And the poster, or the painting, I'm sorry, is it's literally him on a horse standing in front of the Sphinx without the nose, right? And I think
Hmm.
they discuss in this article about it. They actually called the painting Oedipus, which I would like that. I'm gonna just leave that as a cliffhanger because I'm deadly curious about what that means, about why they went with that. I'm gonna definitely be following up with some further reading about this, but we can't dwell on Napoleon. That does look like a great film, and the topic is there's. I wanted to hit this quickly though on that is that Napoleon the film Ridley Scott had a relationship with Stanley Kubrick right back in the 70s and 80s. And I know that
Hmm.
there's some story about like Ridley Scott was making Blade Runner, and some of the excess filming that went on with The Shining was actually donated from Kubrick to Ridley Scott to fill out like whatever it is, background or something along those lines. There was so much extra footage that like some of the nature shots or whatever it may have been was
Yeah.
donated. He actually gave it to Ridley Scott, and I think Ridley Scott was only looking for like a short amount or a small amount of film, and then like Kubrick sent him like an eternity of film because there was so much excess, and he's a psycho. So he's a psychotic madman, and just sent him like like a mile and a half or like 3 miles worth of
just
film.
reels.
Yeah, go ahead and sift through this, pal. This is just
125 pounds a reel.
this is my leftover scraps. But but interestingly enough, I think they must have had some kind of relationship professionally back then, and I think that as I remember reading that Kubrick was actually planning on taking this project on toward at the end of his life or in the 90s at some point. He was actually going to make a film about Napoleon, and I believe Ridley Scott is like he kind of took the football with it. You see what I mean?
Passing the torch, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if he'll
lateral.
like try to. I'm Ridley Scott's such a great filmmaker. He's got some real clunkers in there, but like most of the way through, he's been pretty good. And I wonder if he's gonna drop some like Easter eggs in there, paying homage to Kubrick and his vision. So interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Moving on though, let's do a quick recap here. What do you say? We'll do before we go to break. Let's do a quick recap of our previous episode. This previous episode was in our film series. We discussed the death of Stalin. It was a fun episode to do, fun movie to do, hilarious stuff. Anything that we missed, Errol, that you wanted to? How did you think we did overall? Did I lose you?
Oh, no, you didn't. It was I was just muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're good.
Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
I thought we did a pretty good job. I didn't rewatch the movie, so don't know if we missed a bunch. Uh, my takeaway, it's just a funny kind of attempt at a social comedy at the time, and it seems I don't want to say accurate because that's not like it's probably not
No, it's
literally
not.
what happened, but it seems very reasonable. And the fact that like it kind of lines up with some of the events that actually happened, it's just it's a funny like curtain peek like
Perfect word
into
for it. Yeah, I agree with that.
like what may have happened, like just a it's and it's such a important like thing and like time that like happened. It's no wonder they made a borderline like play about it. Like they made like a whole movie.
Right.
And so well, I mean
Yeah,
the book of course, but
it was well. It's just it's a great, unique idea, and there's not a whole lot of films. There aren't a whole lot of movies that have ever been made like in this vein. Especially on this topic. Like very few films actually have covered this era, specifically like the beginning stages of the Cold War and the end of like Stalin's regime. But to spin it in this way, I thought was like pretty unique and like a very bold move overall. And I had a bunch of fun just rewatching the film. That was a blast. And then obviously it was great to discuss the film. Do you stand by your rating? I think you gave it an 8. I think we both gave it 8s out of 10. You
yes,
good with that
yes,
rating? I'm
I
still
have
good
a
with it. Sometimes you give a rating and you want to like chew on it a little bit and maybe it shifts, but I was pretty content with that. I think that's about right.
yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
Cool. All right, well, we can dive into the content today. Today, we're going to plow right ahead. I did want to drop one little thing. I listened to a podcast today that I just wanted to like plug super quick. It's probably been listened to, time and time again, but I thought it was like one of the more important podcasts I've ever heard. It was like very one of the more informative ones. I don't, Errol, are you familiar with Jocko Willink?
No.
So yeah, he was like a former Navy SEAL. And for our listeners, if you are familiar with Jocko's like if you're familiar with him, you know what he's about. He's just like disciplined and like he's just a savage. And he did a podcast about a week or two ago with Dr. Peter Attia, whose book came out about a month and a half, 2 months ago. Maybe a little longer ago than that, but it was a great book about medicine and health and longevity. I listened to that. He's done a bunch of podcasts. I actually have the book and I've been sifting through it, chipping away at it slowly but surely. And there's a lot of good content in there about health and medicine and nutrition, exercise, all that kind of stuff. And his podcast today was like incredible. It was that episode specifically is Jocko podcast number 392. And that's with Peter Attia. Give that a listen. Quick plug on that. There's a ton to learn if you're interested in that kind of thing. Give that a spin because it's got a lot to say. And Dr. Peter Attia is super knowledgeable. He's got a lot to teach us. So just a quick plug on that. And what do you say, Errol? Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk UFC 290. We'll do a quick little recap and discuss what happened over the weekend in Las Vegas at the UFC 290 event. So hang tight. We'll be right back with you. welcome back to the Peripheral Views podcast. We're going to discuss what went down this weekend at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, International Fight Week. Biggest week of the year for the UFC, typically. It was a big night in Vegas. Errol, what did you peep the card? What did you think about it overall?
Man, I feel really bad because I didn't see the whole thing. I watched like pretty much the beginning and where is it? Yeah, dude, I was pretty much off after the Lawler fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's tough because like this is the problem with like these UFC cards. Most of these like UFC pay-per-views will wind up in Vegas. And not even just the pay-per-views. They do a lot of the fight nights in Vegas. And them joints go fucking long, bro. It's hard to like hang in there sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Because that fucking prelim card it's done at 10 o'clock, and then you've still got five fights. What's amazing is that main card went until fucking 1:15 in the morning.
Oh,
1:20 in the morning. So you're
yeah,
talking
no.
that's pushing 4 hours for five fights. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
wouldn't have made it.
what did you think of well, we'll start there. What did you think of that Lawler knockout to end his career?
It was one of the craziest things I've seen in the sport.
Straight
I
up.
was, I was not ready for that. Like I was like, all right, let's see what he's got, and I know he's ready. Like rolls up, puts him in a clinch, and then hits him just with the like a perfect combo. Like he connects like five times, I believe. Like he's like it's just like face, jaw, like side of the head, boom, and then like just crumpled. Like it's like there were a lot of the fights that happened last night. They looked like a lot of the finishers in like a UFC game without like
Yeah, it was.
it was just
The
people
finishes
crumpled.
were yeah, the finishes were like very like dramatic, but his was especially dramatic just because I don't know that people were really expecting Robbie to go out with a knockout because well, I will say this. I think he's had such a super long career, but like he really has not been he hasn't gotten chinny in my opinion. Like he's really kind of only I think he's only been finished like a few times like I know he's had some real bad outings. He's had a couple of pretty rough nights at the office, in the last like I don't know 4 or 5 years. Let's see, he's lost one, two, three, four, five, six. He's 3-6 in his last nine since losing the belt to Tyron Woodley, and he was only really finished by yeah, he got knocked out by Brian Barberina in the last fight. So that was a finish, but that wasn't a brutal finish. It's not like he went out cold. I don't if memory serves me, I don't think that was like one of those types of knockouts, but um I mean, he had some fucking I mean, largely a career to be revered. I mean, do you remember the Rory McDonald fights?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Boy, if you saw them, I mean, those would probably, if you were doing a UFC top 10 moments, like the second Rory McDonald fight where they're they're covered in blood. I mean, and he like spits blood at him at the end, like the round ends, and Lawler just spits blood at him, and they both just refuse to go back to the corner. They just start walking
Oh,
towards
they
each other. It is like it's one of the all-time badass moments you'll ever see in the sport. It's unbelievable. Um, but he had an unbelievable career largely, and he was a welterweight champion. Like, I mean, he's going to the Hall of Fame, and he
dude,
deserves to be
and like
there.
look at the welterweights right now. That is the toughest boys in the goddamn game, if you
It is a
ask me.
good division, man.
Dude, it's a
Yeah,
granted when you're a heavyweight and you're the baddest man on the planet, like no matter what.
yeah,
Um
for sure.
Usman, uh Usman, Chimaev, uh uh Bilal, Kobe. I'll say Colby. I'll say him.
Yeah, he's got to be in there. You got because as much of a he's a character for sure in a terrible way and insufferable, largely on the public side of things. But that dude is a fucking great fighter. It's tough to say it, but he's a great fighter, and he's probably gonna fight Leon Edwards next for the belt too, which
Um
undeservedly.
right, but he's got the spectacle down. So
Yeah, that's for
you know
sure. Yeah,
I mean, you guys probably know how we feel about like uh, like like identity politics, and he's just really good at exploiting that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just well, yeah, he just pisses off. He just, part of it is that I do have to remind myself that that dude is definitely putting on an act, but I'm wondering how much of it is like how much is this a work and how much is this like he's just amplifying his actual personality. I get a whiff of the latter, and but
Really,
he's a great fighter anyway, at least for that match.
maybe, maybe it's the cynic in me, but I'd like to hope that it's legit all a game.
Yeah, if it's all work, then like I'd be fine with that. Because listen, you gotta have a heel. Listen, every in the fight game, you gotta have a heel. Somebody's got to be the heel, and if it's just that, then great. But I don't know. You don't have to bring the fucking race thing into it, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that on this main card. So let's move up the main card a little bit here. So let's jump right into the first fight of the UFC 290 card. So Bo fucking Nickel, remember I told you in the last podcast that he had like four professional fights, and I don't think he accumulated a full round yet because he was finishing guys so fast.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he went in there and knocked the dude out in 38 seconds. So that continued, and
yeah, I saw, I saw that. That guy's a monster.
he's savage in a way that like I don't know, man. I don't know who's beating that dude. It's what he's done so far in his professional career is genuinely impressive. I mean, it's he's well, I don't know if you know his backstory, but he's got like multiple national championships with Penn State. Which
Wrestling.
yeah, wrestling, yeah. Like
Oh, okay. So, okay.
so good luck to everyone because now he's got the hands too. He's
I was gonna
he's
say he's
like
just punching people, so
he
you're
knocks people
beat.
out. He
Like
didn't
you're
use the
literally
wrestling.
you're beat if you're gonna grab onto. He's that's the thing he's most comfortable with. He messed
Yeah.
up.
I mean, he even said that, like, I think he said in the post fight interview, he was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to fall in love with my hands, but like, my toolbox is deep, so don't you even worry about it." I think I mean, he's inevitable as for what I can tell. I mean, just with that wrestling background, I just don't see who It really depends on who's champion by the time he gets to the top of that division, because I imagine that I think Adesanya is not long for middleweight. I think he's going to move up at some point. But I just don't see anybody even in the rankings who's going to give Bo
You
Nickel a
really,
hard
you
time.
really think he's moving up?
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point here. I think he's got one. I think he's going to take and we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes here with the Dricus 2+E fight. I think he's going to take that fight at middleweight, and then I think he bounces. I think he's going up to light heavyweight.
Light heavy with the monsters, with the sharks.
Bro, he's already a middle. He's already fought up there. He fought for the belt up there. He
Yeah,
fought,
he's
yeah,
been, yeah.
and he lost. I mean, he did lose. It was like the first time it was his first professional loss to Jan Blachowicz a couple years ago. But he did go up, and he didn't look bad. It's not he didn't get knocked out, and he won the first two rounds. In my estimation, he won. He won, if I remember correctly. He won the first two rounds, and then he lost the last three. And this last two rounds, rounds 4 and 5, Blachowicz just like resorted to the wrestling, and it was just too much because Blachowicz is like a big light heavyweight, like he's a big dude.
Yes.
But he did fine. I don't see it. I actually see right now, and I've been like in my head thinking to myself, if there was ever a time for Izzy to move up, is like right now because the champion is Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is not a huge light heavyweight, and he's a striker. He's not going to wrestle. And like I see a path to that belt more clean now than ever for Izzy. Because if you're telling me that a champion in whatever weight class is going to strike with that dude, I don't forecast that going well for anybody.
So the light heavyweight is in a precarious situation right now, as you know, with a
Mm-hmm.
Yuri. Was it a
Prohaska.
Prohaska? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yuri Prohaska and old Jamal Hill. Um, Jamal Hill's the champion, but he's not ranked higher than him pound for pound.
Yeah, because well, the only reason for that I can explain the backstory on that a little bit is that like Yuri was the champion, but he got hurt. He got injured and was out. He was gonna fight Glover Teixeira a second time and got
Okay.
hurt. and then his shoulder injury was like so significant they anticipated he would be out for so long that he just straight up vacated the belt. So
Mm.
so Jamal fought Glover in January and took the belt, and then so Yuri did not lose the belt, and Prohatzka's a big fucking light heavyweight. He's a big, and he's just a. If you haven't watched any of his fights, I mean, he has got like this style that is so like spastic and unpredictable. It's a fun style to watch. It's like he's an amazing fighter, but um, they're probably going to link up. It'll be Jamal Hill and Yuri probably next. I don't know when that fight is or when they haven't booked it yet, but that's what I was saying is like Izzy wants to fight Dricus Du Plessis, but like in my opinion, I haven't seen a cleaner path to the light heavyweight championship for Izzy since, I mean, even Glover would have been a problem for Izzy, I think, because he's got the size and he's also an amazing grappler. Whereas Jamal Hill is predominantly a striker. I mean, he's probably going to throw hands with Izzy, and I just don't see that going well. Um, but either way, so that's the middleweight division picture for you. Let's move on to the next fight. Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner put on a fucking brutal war over 3 rounds. I mean, Jesus Christ! I know you sent me the screenshot of his like X-rays. He fucking broke his arm.
Yeah,
Um,
no, Dan, he threw he put it all on the line, the
mhm.
hairline. Oh, it was a
Yeah,
snap.
it's
It wasn't
just
even a hairline. It was a he
full
snapped
break,
that. Yeah,
full
he
fucking break. Yeah,
broke that bone in his arm.
yeah, it was great. It was a great fight, man. I mean, he's like that dude's career has been pretty fun to watch too because he's kind of like Cowboy Cerrone. Like he's taking all these short notice fights. And he's just an all action fighter. It's fun to watch
He's
him
a
do his thing.
what it is he's a fighter.
Yeah, right.
That
Exactly.
man is a like Cowboy Cerrone. That boy is a brawler. Like he's like, oh, you need me to step up and punch someone? Like I'm pretty tough. Like I feel like that's so different. Or it's not or to like put like a simile to it. One of my favorite rappers, Lupe Fiasco, said something like he had like a line or like a song, and he was talking about like battle rappers or like a diss. It was a diss track, and he's like, people need to like be comfortable, like get in their zone to like do something.
Mhm.
He's like, not me, like spare the moment, like I'll just show up. I feel like that says so much more about like your craft. If you're just someone like drop of a hat, someone's like, you need to fight, and he's like, oh, good thing I'm a fighter. Like I will fight whoever is in my weight class, or
Yeah.
like
Well, it's about being like it's that old it's that old phrase basically. It goes like uh stay ready so you don't have to or stay prepared so you don't have to get prepared. Like if you're just
right.
always prepared, you don't have there's no who needs a training camp if you're already in like you just stay in that zone, in that shape. This is what Volkanovski was talking about in his post-fight interview about him and Izzy. He's like, I'm an active champion, and he's like, you don't see that. You don't see that out of the champions in this sport where they're fighting 2 or 3 times a year. He's like, except for Izzy. He's like, me and Izzy are the only two who are doing that or doing the damn thing, going out there and fighting like in a matter of a couple months between fights. And it's actually true if you look at all the divisions. I guess the exception to that was Aljo is in bantamweight is like he's gonna fight a second time, but it doesn't sound like he really wants to fight that soon. It sounds like the payday is just calling his name. But like
Mm.
it's really true for the most part. I mean, most guys if they might fight twice a year, most champions, and if that much. And
Man,
but
I'd be coasting too.
yeah, I mean, you get
Them
that belt.
killers.
Well, it's not even that though. You get the belt, and it's like for however long you wait in between fights, that's how long you're a champion. And
Yeah, and
that's
that's
gotta
what
feel pretty good.
in every single second that you stay the champion, it's just some person who has, you know what I mean? Like I feel like the UFC is really crazy, like in how it's people from all walks of life.
It
But
is crazy.
you'll notice that it's usually the people from the hardest walks of life. It's
Always.
usually, would you
Pretty much,
believe that
yeah.
it would be the toughest people raised in like the worst kind of situations who like try to make the best of it? And they're like, hey, if I just need to punch someone in the face as opposed to like, you know, deal with the horror of reality, like that I was like born in, then
Yeah.
yeah, they just beat the hell out of people.
Well, it's two things. I've got like there's like two things about that. It's like number one, like that's why you see like some of the like Eastern European or like Russian fighters are typically like really successful in the sport, and that's because where they're coming from is like hardened and it demands toughness in a different way. And also, but there's also the counter to that would be that like it is a little bit like the sport is kind of developing a more athletic sense about it, like where you're getting a
Athletic
lot
and
of
I would argue or athletic and I'd argue technical or technicality too.
sure for
So like,
sure.
what is like the the true like difference between someone who is just like born in like a rough situation who is tough, ergo a Sonny Liston, to a
Right.
Muhammad Ali who was born into the sport, who was bred into the sport, who happened to be made for the sport, just
Yeah.
a perfect scenario as opposed to
Yep.
just like being raised on well water and like
Yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, and that's the cool thing about MMA is like that's why I do love that the sport of MMA, and I'm glad we're going to work it into our our podcast schedule somewhat regularly because like there is just such a dynamic set of talent and skills that like it's interesting. It's almost like it's one of the few. It's imagine that they like integrated like football, basketball, and baseball, and you were expected to get good at all of them. Like that's why when there's the argument about
well that's
boxing versus MMA, it's kind of silly to me because it's like, yeah, I get that the MMA guys are not going to be as successful boxers because it's like they're learning how to play how to they're learning how to be successful in like five different sports.
well so when it comes to the two sports, I have the utmost respect for boxing. Reason we Sonny Liston was one of the first people we talked about, first things we've done in the podcast, but I prefer MMA as a like a sport. Nothing against pugilism, but there's just something about being able to be like, I don't care what you throw at me, I will beat you at that. If you want to take it to the ground, I will stand back up and punch you in the face, or I'll keep you on the ground and then drag you into deep waters. It just being there, be like, if you want to fight, I got something for you. Like, I don't care if you kick me in the leg, I don't care if you, as long as you're not eye gouging, like
Right. We got the
kicking me in the
restrictions that
dick.
have to be there.
Like, as long as you're not doing that, like, I'll beat your ass. Like,
It's also it's
if
also
you
great
don't bite me,
because
I'll scrap.
well, it's also I've always said that like I genuinely find them to be I find UFC not UFC fighters. I'll refrain from singling out the UFC too much on this comment, but like MMA fighters specifically, I find to be the most impressive athletes in a lot of ways because their athleticism it demands more of the human body. Like they have to be able to do things on an athletic level that I don't think other sports really demand,
There,
including boxing.
you could argue that with like true contact sports, not like football, but like past football, almost hockey, but a little bit past hockey because there's a little bit of fighting. But that's the time where you see true willpower, just
Mhm.
true determined. Like you are concussed. Like someone gets punched in the
Yeah,
face, kicked in the head, knee in the face, you're done. And someone will still be just like, just throw something out there, just training, just please. Boom, hit
yeah,
someone and then just flip the whole script. Like that is you don't see there's not a lot of sports where you see legitimate like David versus Goliath moments where it's like, oh my god, this dude's getting killed. It's bad for everyone, and then just like absolute turn because you get punched in the jaw, man. You got Mike Tyson, man. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. You're like, I'm gonna beat his ass, and then boop, you get hit one time. And then like, wait, and then
yeah.
the crowd roars, and then the momentum flips.
Oh, the crowd's a thing too. The
Yeah,
fighters talk
you
about
get
this all the time. Like the
the
crowd is a
second you get
thing.
the crowd snaps the other way, you get your feet underneath you, and it's different, man. It's fucking that's the sport, though. That's
Well,
what
you
it's
also get
about.
like so you get like this will be a perfect segue into like the next two fights. So like you get like the two stark contrasts to that. Like number one, we'll talk about Robert Whitaker, who's also had just an unbelievable career. In my opinion, one of
Southern
the best.
Cross.
Yeah, like genuinely. Yeah, he's a legend. That's why you say that because he's literally left his like mark on the sport.
Hmm.
And he truly has, because he's only lost to Israel in 9 years, until unfortunately this past Saturday, where he lost to Dricus Du Plessis in a
Another
shocking upset.
Dan Hooker, another true fighter, another scrapper.
Who, Whitaker? Oh, for sure,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, just a
yeah. But
fighter.
he's in my opinion, and I'm not taking anything away from Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is a skilled tactician out there, but like Whitaker is as skilled a striker and is as well rounded a fighter as the sport has to offer. I
He
don't know what
you
happened
see
Saturday
him
night.
you see him making a lot of good choices in his fights
His
where
IQ is
he
his IQ is
he
through the roof
he
for sure.
wagers like in a scrap like a lot of the fighters that he's gonna win in that scrap.
Yeah,
He's gonna place a better punch in that and he can take the punch like just a tough guy. Dude, talk about a
no fear.
UFC game finish though.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
just
he
slumped up
did.
against the kid. That's a literal just TKO, just bing
Yeah,
boom
it was a
bing.
bad deal for him, man. He had a rough night, and that's the first time I've actually seen him have a rough night. And because even when he lost to Izzy the second time, that fight was disputable. It was A, disputable, and B,
Yes.
he showed out that night. This was like the first time since the
What's
2019 knockout to Izzy that I've seen him like genuinely walk out of the cage truly defeated. And Duplessis is,
what's that
I
say about
so
him though?
about
What's that say
Duplessis or
about
Whitaker.
Duplessis? Yes, exactly. What's that say
This
about
is what's
Duplessis?
confusing about this guy, dude. I've seen him in I've seen all of his UFC fights so far. So he's like what, 5-0 now, I think, in the UFC, or 4-0 maybe. But I've seen every one of his fights, and I've definitely seen a skill development. But I've seen this dude, he got like he was in trouble against a very aging Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson is like not prime Derek Brunson. I'm not trying to shit on Derek Brunson, but Derek Brunson he's at a point in his career in which like he's talking about retirement, and who knows if he fights again. And like Derek Brunson's a good fighter, but to call him a great fighter, I think that would be saying too much about his career. He's been a very good fighter for a long time, but he's not great. And he gave Duplessis problems. He did get finished by Duplessis, but he gave him some problems in that fight. Duplessis also had some problems against a very washed Darren Till. Darren Till hasn't been
Mm,
himself in a long time, and Darren Till, he survived. He got beat down in the first round and survived it, and then Till got up on his feet in the second round and like banged on him for like a whole round, and then was winning the third round for the first part of it until he finished him too. So like this dude is a, I don't know. Supposedly he got his nose fixed, like his nasal passage was like blocked or something, and he got that cleared out. So maybe that helped his cardio. I don't know how much that factors in, but he is a marauder out there. I mean, this dude, his foot is on the gas pedal only. This dude hasn't seen a brake pedal in 5 fights. It's unbelievable.
mm.
And I don't know what he does, because he's gonna get the Izzy fight next, it sounds like. So for the middleweight championship coming up. I don't know. What do you think about that fight?
Is he versus him?
Yeah, that's next. I mean, that's on deck. That's what you got to imagine. I mean, they did a face off in the cage, and Duplessis is South African, and he was like,
Yes.
you heard about the obviously
Yeah,
I
the
hate
racial
it,
connotations.
bro. I hate it. I hate it so much. Why? Like, because it's one thing if it's like a genuine argument, but like, can this not be a promotional thing? Like, this is just cringe as all hell. And Izzy's leaning into it clearly, because he got in the cage and like called him the N word a bunch of times, and like I
Yeah.
thought it was kind of funny. Somebody asked Dana afterwards. He's like, so what did you think about, like, somebody asked him like,
Yeah, and
how
he's
many
like, I
do you
don't
remember?
care.
Well, he was also just like, yeah, he's black. Like, he's black.
Right.
Like, he could say that. Like, and it's like, yeah, like, I don't know why. Like, I don't understand why
See,
that was
so
the question. The question should be, why is this becoming a promotional tool? This should not become a promotional tool for this fight. I don't think.
I'm excited about that fight if that's the case. I would almost rather see, and it was a contender for my fantasy card for
Okay.
300. I'd almost rather see Duplessis Pereira.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Well, here's the problem with that, and
Let him
that's a
earn it. Let him
you're
earn it.
right. Yeah, Pereira will Pajeda. It's either Pereira or Pajeda. Poatan will call him, because that's like the tribal, like the fucking. I think it's like he's got like Aztec. tribal DNA. Like
Bro's
he's
a
only
hashtag warrior. Like
bro,
trace
he's
them
literally,
back.
I'm telling you, like no, I'm not even, I don't think it's either at like whatever, what the indigenous people of his like ancestry are like only a couple of generations removed. Like they still live very tribally. Like, but that man puts Duplessis away quick.
Think so?
It, yes, I do. Well,
Quick?
well, Duplessis, if he resorts to the wrestling, I mean, I don't know. The wrestling, maybe not. Duplessis can wrestle, man. I gotta say, he out wrestled
Dude,
Robert
see,
Whitaker, bro.
that's what I'm saying. I'll give him it, take it, and take the title fight too if you're Duplessis. Just take it, just for the you
Well, he's
know.
gonna take that over. And the other problem with this, with your pick though, is that Pajeda moved up to light heavyweight. He's gone from middleweight because that cut was. He's too fucking big, dude. He's like 230 pounds with like 0% body fat right now. Like
Everyone's moving, jumping ship.
well, dude, that dude, the fact that he even made middleweight as many times as he did, that cut is like you see him on the scale, he looks terrible. I don't even know how he's doing it, and he moved up for a reason. I don't think he. I think he's just done with that weight cut, and I can't. Even the 205 weight cut's not going to be fun for him. That's how big he is. But
Damn, and
like
also you don't want to fight heavyweight, man. You don't want
you don't want to deal with that problem up there named
to.
John
Oh
Jones,
my
bro.
god, man, you
That
don't want
problem.
that tied to Visa. What are you
Tai
talking about?
Tuivasa,
Yeah,
Tai Tuivasa is a big boy too, but
that's what I'm saying. That's just a lot of weight coming at
he's
you.
the fucking swang and bang right there, the old shoey bomb. Um, so anyway, yeah, that was an unbelievable finish. I did not forecast that when that fight got booked. I was like, oh, Whitaker's got a stay busy fight, and he's gonna go right back into the Adesanya rematch for a third time. But it looks like I don't know. Whitaker's gonna he's got some interesting career decisions. Duplessis and Izzy is next. I don't know when they're doing that fight. They're going to Sydney in September, and Izzy's from New Zealand, so I kind of think that's where they're gonna try to plug that in. But that's soon. September's like 2 months away. Um,
Yeah,
it's an interesting fight. I do see. I forecast Israel having a pretty good game plan for that dude, and he's fought and beat bigger dudes. Like he knocked out Paulo Costa. You know, he knocked out fucking
yeah.
Poton. Like he's got a good resume with
He
big
can bang with the
guys.
best.
He hung around with Yoel Romero and beat him, you know, in a very boring fight, but it was, you know, he still won. But anyway, so let's
Yeah.
move on from that fight. We'll move into our co-main event from 290. Brandon Moreno and Alexandra Pantoja. Wow. I mean, fucking wow. Errol, I know you didn't get a chance to peep this card in full, but let me tell you, as unbelievable as this whole card was so fun. But this fight specifically was shockingly good. I mean, it was like a blood and guts battle, fucking 5 rounds. Neither dude just willing to cave, and it was the best part of my favorite part about it is it as close a fight it was, as fun a fight it was. It was probably, in my opinion, at this point, it might be the fight of the year or in the contendership for that. I will not be including it in my UFC 2023 moments only because the list will predate our pay per view from last weekend just because we've already completed the list. But if I could make I would include this in the second half, we'll say, um, because this fight was fucking bananas. It was fucking bananas. If you get a chance to rewatch it, dude, it's Moreno is in a lot of wars at this point. I mean, he's just that Mexican pride is just that Mexican drive, that fucking warrior is just he's a machine. But Pantoja got the victory. It was uncontroversial, which is always nice to see in the title fight.
Yeah, especially if you are, because you know what they say, you got to beat the champ to be the champ. It's always nice when there's a decision and the contender just wins flat out.
Yeah, and he did. He did. And he had actually they had fought twice before. Once in the contender series, which was Dana White's contender series, which was a exhibition. And the second fight was that was an actual pro bout, and he Moreno lost both of those. So now he's 0-3 against Pantoja, career wise. So like I don't know what they do. The thing is after a fight like that, I would love to see them run it back because dude, the flyweights are so much fun. Those guys are so fucking fast. It's unbelievable to watch. Those guys are like their hand speed and their grappling exchanges, like the transitions in the jiu-jitsu is so fun to watch. I mean, it's crazy. That division is alive and well, thankfully. And they put on probably one of the best fights of the year, maybe the best fight in flyweight title history. I mean, the division's not super old, but and DJ had some great fights in there, but DJ kind of beat the shit out of everybody. So,
Mm-mm.
except for Cejudo, but either way, that was the best fight of the night. But the biggest moment of the night that came in the main event, and that was Alexander Volkanovski, the motherfucking Terminator, just putting the work on Yair Rodriguez, and I gotta say, man, I don't know who the fuck could beat this dude. I mean, this man is he lost to Makhachev, but like that's a weight class up, and I don't even know that I didn't think he lost the fight. Did you happen to see any clips from that fight from last weekend,
Um,
the Volk fight, or was that
yeah, I saw some highlights on Reddit, and it looks like he won in a great fashion.
well, he did this like the way he got the finish was like it was quite impressive. Like, I mean, obviously it's always impressive to get a finish in the UFC, but the way he did it, like, it's so strange. Like he hurts Rodriguez with, I believe, a right hand. And yeah, and Rodriguez starts back into the cage. And so Volk goes in for like some dirty boxing and basically unloads this like three-piece combination in I think two hooks to the body and then a left up top. And then instead of like it looked like he was like gonna finish him right then and there up against the cage with strikes, but then he just picked his ass up and slammed him on
Yeah,
the ground. I mean, it was just that. He just picked his ass up at will and slammed him on the ground, closed guard, and just rained down ground and pound on his head until the ref stepped in.
right. Yeah, just hands up. Nothing but defending
Yeah,
TKO. If I'm not, yeah,
yeah. I mean, it was just a beatdown, and it was a competitive fight up until that point. But like once Volk, some I think a pundit said I heard them say, and they were so right about this in hindsight. They said that like the first two rounds will indicate what we're gonna get. If Yair is not banging on him in the first couple rounds, then this pundit thought that Volk would pull away with it late. And boy, that as true as ever because as soon as the third round started, it was like this is gonna be Volk's fight. He's gonna take care of business, and he did. Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable night. But yeah, you should go back and watch some of that if you get a chance. There was some fun had on this card. It was a great card.
yeah. I tried to undercut Dana on a couple of these because I missed the fight, but he wasn't having it. So that's you win this
Shut you
time.
down.
He shut me right down. But
Yeah, he
I'll buy
knows,
it.
bro. He knows.
Are you happy, Mr. White?
We
I'll
got the
buy it.
guy. We got the cops right outside his door.
I'm the
um,
monster.
but yeah, so that was our UFC 290 recap. It was an unbelievable night of fights, and we had a bunch of fun with it. So, um, great to watch that. We've got UFC 291s coming up. That's Poirier Gagey 2. So, goddamn, that's going to be fun. Um, so we'll see how that goes. Let's take a quick break. We'll bounce back and we're going to talk. I'm gonna fill Erroll in on some of the fight announcements that were announced over the weekend. Some big fights coming up, interesting fights, and then we'll get into the content of the day. So hang tight. We'll be right back in just a moment. Okay, welcome back, our beloved listeners. We are back. Want to talk a little bit now that we've recapped the past weekend of fights. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on forthcoming, and there's some good stuff coming. We won't talk about everything, but over the past couple weeks, or in the past specifically about the past week, there's been some big fights announced already, and there's some looming. Some shits in the works right now. We'll get to that quickly at the end, but first and foremost, the biggest announcement. Got to talk about this, Erroll, and I got to hear what you got to say. We have not talked about it yet, and I got to hear what you got to say about it. Announced over the weekend at the UFC event, UFC 295, November 11th at MSG in New York City. The GOAT, John Jones, comes home, and he will be defending his heavyweight championship against the all-time greatest heavyweight in UFC history, Stipe Miocic. What do you think about that, bro?
Dude, that is a crazy fight, dude. Someone's going to die. Someone's
That
going
is a
to get
fucking great
killed.
fight. Yeah,
That's
it's a
well,
great fight.
John. I might actually bet on John this time.
I'm
like
taking John, bro. I'm taking John for sure.
I might actually spend some money because he's a bad man.
The thing about it is, so let's do a little MMA math, which is like MMA math. People hate MMA math, but I'm going to do it a little bit here. So John Jones, John Jones out wrestled the shit out of DC, right? He was the first person to
In
take DC down.
DC, yes, and that's the thing too. Like, DC was like saying, like, if you like wrestle me, like that's where I'll beat you. It's like he
John Jones was
chose.
like, "No, I'm not. I'm
It's
just going
like
to
he
wrestle you."
like chose to do it. Like he was
Yeah,
like, yeah, I'm gonna like nah. He's like, you think I just need to like punch you with my lengthy arms where I could punch you across the ring? He's like, no, I will. And that's the thing. DC is that dog, man.
I know. I fucking love DC, man. I love DC, but he got. In all fairness, I love DC. That boy got his ass beat by John Jones twice. I mean, John Jones might have been cheating with the PEDs, but like
Yeah,
our boy took a
I was
whooping.
gonna say like he lost the fights, but he won. DC won the war.
Yeah, overall, he like in the what is it, the court of public opinion or the court of public
Well,
perception,
that
like
and
he
also
definitely
like he
did.
doesn't need to. Granted, he's been in the game for a little bit, but like he's. Do we see John Jones as a color commentator with
Never.
his
No,
right with
no.
his checkered pad? Like DC's, he's
Oh, he's set, man, and he's
most
so
loved
good
person
at
in the
it.
game.
Yeah, he's so good at it, and he's so likable too. He's
Dude,
just like,
I love this. Have you ever seen the stuff just him and Khabib chilling? Dude,
oh,
fucking
that's
nicest
hilarious.
stuff ever. Dude, it's awesome.
They're such good friends. Yeah, they're so tight.
Well, that's why
It's
they're always
awesome.
talking smack, and he's like Khabib.
They're always
Actually,
talking shit.
yeah, because
They're always talking
he's
shit.
like, yo, I don't care what belt you have. He's like, I will lay on you. He's like, I will
Yeah,
lay on top of you. He's like, I'll beat you up. He's like, you
yeah.
will not be able to do anything if I lay on top of you. He's like, I'll smash.
I will smash. Yeah, yeah. Their stuff is great, man. Their relationship is like super, like very wholesome. But speaking of wholesome shit, did you see that fucking Jones and Adesanya kind of like kissed and
Yeah,
made up a
yeah,
little
they
bit? That
made.
was nice to see, man. I'm happy to see that because I like both of those
Well,
fighters so
what do you
much.
do when you're the two like baddest people on the planet,
Yeah,
other
two
than
champs,
shake
bro.
hands, man? Well, what do you do? Like, it's either you either make amends or you right there in the airport. You just fucking
Well,
settle
yeah.
it.
Well, it makes me wonder that like did that get squashed because Jones went up to heavyweight and like Izzy hasn't even gotten to light heavyweight yet. So like there was always talk when Jones was at light heavyweight that like okay, they're only a division apart. Maybe we could make that happen at 205. So Izzy comes up to 205, Jones is
Mm.
at 205. Maybe we make that fight a thing. And it had a lot of traction at one point as being like people wanted to see that fight. And then Jones goes up to heavyweight and does what he does. And Adesanya he actually is 0-1 at light heavyweight when he made his attempt against Jan Blachowicz, like I was saying. Maybe the fact that their paths kind of went separate ways, that like maybe it was just like this fight's probably never gonna happen, so let's just squash the beef. And or maybe they just wanted to do it because for personal reasons, they just don't want to have that kind of negative energy out there. And it was nice to see, honestly, because you don't see that a lot in this sport. Most of the time, this sport is like motherfuckers saying either like racist shit or you know, I mean, it's the fight business. It's a dirty, 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 dirty game, clearly.
I mean,
But
when you're like talking smack and you're trying to get underneath someone's skin, you can only say enough mean stuff before you actually slip up and you're like, oh.
Yeah,
You
I
know what
mean,
I
you're
mean?
just pushing it. Yeah, well, it's
Right.
also just
There's
like you're trying to get under their skin. That part's real. Whether you mean the words or not is the problem. Like the Colby Covington thing, like we were saying earlier. Like
well, did
he's saying
you
a bunch
saw
of
like
shit.
the after he got his jaw broke, which he I guess he didn't if you ask
Oh,
him
he
by
definitely got his jaw broke. He said
dude.
it
He,
on
I
the he
mean,
said it on the mic.
right. But like after like those fights, he was like he's like it's all business. Like he's like it's all
Yeah.
love.
Oh yeah, after the second Usman fight, right?
Yeah, because I mean, also after that, what's he gonna do? Like you're a punk. You're
No, you beat him twice. Yeah. You
you
know what though? Listen,
can't.
I got a hot take. Hold up, hot take. Ready? You ready for
Yep.
this hot take? This is a real hot take.
Okay.
It's not that hot because I think people have said this before.
Okay.
I
I was
rewatched that.
ready.
I rewatched that fight, bro. I think Colby won that second fight.
You think you won it?
I do. I really do. I think he won. I think he won. If I remember, I haven't rewatched. I watched it like last summer. I rewatched it and I was like, because it's a fun fight and it's really the two best at the time, the two best welterweights, easy. And I just wanted to see, like, okay, I know it was close, but I couldn't really remember. You know what stole the night was fucking Gagey and Michael Chandler fought, and that fight was just
Yeah.
blood. It was just the most like brutal fight, and it kind of stole the night. So you kind of forget about the Usman Covington fight.
Dude, see, that's I almost wanted to put Gagey Chandler on my 300 fantasy
Oh, a
card.
rematch?
Gagey Chandler too, but I don't. That's not
Oh
enough
boy,
time,
nah, you got
realistically.
Poirier. You're fine. You don't even need that. You don't need to worry about that at all.
I didn't put Dustin. I let Dustin. I'm gonna little spoiler. I let Dustin rest when he
Don't
gave up
spoil.
the
Don't
win.
hold on. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. But it's either way. That I know that's a hot take that people don't probably agree with. But like, if you rewatch
I
that fight was damn close. It was
I'll rewatch
damn.
it, but if it's close, like you know what, I'm cliche, man. I speak in I've said it before, dude. I speak in uh what is it bumper stickers, man. You got to beat the champ to be the champ.
Yeah, I hate that. I disagree with that. By the way, I do disagree with it because
I
and here's
don't.
why.
I don't.
Here,
It's ceremony. It's the whole thing. You need to win in a fantastic display to like you can't dude, you don't become the champion over one punch. Not in the UFC. You do that in boxing. In boxing, you win over one punch.
bro, tell that to Conor McGregor. Tell that to Conor McGregor, who put fucking Jose Aldo's lights out in exactly one punch and
yeah,
became a featherweight champ.
look at their reach.
Yeah, well, listen, the
Look at Connor's reach. Look at Connor. Look at every single fantastic knockout that Conor McGregor has, and look at their reach comparison. I implore.
What do you want to do? The guy cut the weight. He went to 145. You can't hold that against him. He's at 145. The dude's like fucking like 190 pounds now. Like, of
Nah,
course he's
man.
gonna have a reach advantage. He doesn't belong
Um,
at that weight class. You ever seen him on the
um,
scale at 145? That dude looked
um,
like a fucking he just rolled out of Auschwitz. He looked
don't
terrible.
I don't respect him. I don't think he's.
Nah.
That's
You know
the
what the best
most.
part is like I think that dude just needs to stay away from the sport, and that's my Conor McGregor like
Bro, that dude needs to
MMA
stay out of
opinion.
like the media, bro. That dude needs to stay out of society.
He needs to go find like like something wholesome to do in his life because like yeah I think most people are pretty much done with him as like a public figure and or an athlete and
Well, and that's well. So the thing is, like, I hate these like the like would be like half champions that like parade themselves as literally the greatest of all time, but then you get dog walked when there's actual like when there's an actual challenge. Like, there's no it can handle zero adversity.
oh
Um,
you're talking no I'm gonna give you so much pushback on this one. Listen, if you want to talk about Conor McGregor the fighter like post 2019 2020 even I'm with you. I'm with you. This dude, like espousing that he's still the greatest, is all nonsense. But the idea that that individual was not the single greatest fighter for about 4 years, 3 to 4 years, is absurd. He as in MMA, not boxing. With the Floyd shit, who cares? I'm talking about fucking MSG, UFC 205 against Eddie Alvarez, who Eddie Alvarez was no slouch.
no, he's not.
Dude, I'm sorry. That motherfucker, Conor McGregor at the peak is as talented as any athlete has ever graced the sport. The problem is the stuff going on outside the sport that ruined whatever mental capacity he had to maintain that, to sustain a career like that. Like he was just too famous, too rich, too much power, too much access. And then you throw in like the ego checks of people like Habib and Floyd, and then Poirier put him away twice, right? Because so I think in his mind he thinks, all right, take a couple years off, we're all good. I can just jump right back in. And then you were here when we watched the Poirier fight, and he got his he lost to Poirier twice. Whatever, the second one's a leg break, but like still a loss. And it's just you that's never going to be a thing again. But when it was a thing, you can't take it away from that dude. For that little stretch of 20, what is it, 2014 to like 2016, 2017 ish, somewhere in there. That is like that's the one of the best UFC fighters to ever live. Period.
5 inch reach advantage. 5 inch
You
reach
can't hold it
advantage.
against him. What is he supposed to shorten his arms? What do you want him to do? Go up a weight class? He did, and then he won a fucking another belt.
Cut his fingers off.
That's absurd. All right, let's move down these fight announcements. That's enough on the old leprechaun.
That's old on the old Notorious.
Yeah, that's about enough. So speaking of Tuivasa is back. Old Shuivasa, he's back on September 9th in Sydney, Australia for that UFC 293 card. The Aussie will be taking on the Russian Alexander Volkov, looking to get back on track. Tuivasa, fun fighter, dude. Love
Oh my
watching
god,
him
yeah.
bang.
And in Sydney. So
in Sydney, he's gonna
they
have in
got
his own
Sydney has
backyard.
the best crowd in the world for UFC.
Mm-hmm.
They have
shout out to Luke Thomas on the Morning Combat podcast. He said something that about Australia. Well, he was talking about Florida, but I thought this was one of the funniest things I'd heard in a long time. He said Florida is like the bootleg version of Australia. It's like Australia infused with methamphetamine and poverty.
It's like
Because
Australia's bastard child.
yeah, like because all the venomous fucking reptiles and shit, and then like, I mean, it's not a bad comparison. But
Florida is
a mess.
so Australia is Florida's like well put together older brother.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It really
And
is. And
like
they're they're also extremely different. I mean, they obviously are.
oh
But
yeah,
I
no.
was I just they just kind of look the same because they're like real coastal and beachy and
My brother moved to Florida, but if you held a gun to me right now and you're like you need to move to one of the two places, I'm taking that 24-hour flight, man.
Oh, me too. Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
for
going to
sure.
Florida.
No,
Might not
I
ever
can't
go to
wait.
Florida again.
I can't wait to go to Australia. That's on my like bucket list for sure. But
Man, I can't wait to not go to Australia, man. The plane ride? You're
yeah,
okay
that's a
with
tough
that?
plane, right? Yeah,
Dude,
but
all
like,
right.
well,
I
here's
told
what I was
myself
thinking. I figured out how to do this. No, I figured out how I'm gonna like how if you're only going once and you've got the time and the money, like I figured out how to do this. What you do is you plan a 2 week vacation where you block out a bunch of time on each end of the vacation, like, obviously because for air travel, because there's just a
yes.
shitload of it. And what you do is you get a block in the middle. So you block out 2 days on each side, at least minimum, probably
Oh, so
three.
there's like you stop somewhere.
Hawaii. Yep. Or like Fiji or something. Just somewhere to break that flight up
Do
where you
the
can
first
stop, spend
flight,
a few days.
man. See, I'd mess up. I'd do the first flight to Vegas. I would like I'd lose all my money, and then like I still got to go to Hawaii. Then I got to go to Europe. Like I'm beat.
Yeah, you're fucked. Well, this is why your travel plan is just it's not gonna work. You're just not gonna get very far.
Like I can only spend $100 the one night I'm in Vegas. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
you
like
better have you got to be on a budget in that
ten
place in that
thousand
town.
dollars
But
maybe.
okay, let's move on to the next fight. So UFC 292, that's coming up. That's not too far out. That's only a month away, a little over a month. That's that UFC 292 card that's on August 19th at the TD Garden in Boston. That's going to be headlined by Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley. Can't wait for that fight. That fight's fucking awesome.
Top fight.
Yeah, that's a great fight. And added to that card, so this is cool. I really like this. Cheeto Vera versus Pedro Munoz. So I love that Cheeto Vera's on that card, and here's why. Cheeto Vera is the only person to beat Sean O'Malley so far in his career, and they got a little bit of heat. It's cooled down, but it's heat. You know, you want a little bit of heat between
Bad
contenders, right?
blood.
A
Yeah.
little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. them being on the same card, if they both win, you could set up that rematch in a title
Oh, it's
fight, and it would
it's
be
it's
huge.
written.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right there for, and the UFC probably knows that, so they're, they can work that out. But we'll see what happens there. So Chino Vera, he was going to fight Cejudo on that card, but Cejudo got injured, so filling in for Cejudo is going to be Pedro Munoz, August 19th. Um, Another big fight announced for August 26th in Poland is Alexander Usyk versus Dubois. I'm sorry, I cannot remember this gentleman's first name. He is fighting. What's his? Alexander Usyk. He will be fighting Daniel Dubois. I did know that, and I'm second guessing myself. So, um, and that fight's August 26th in Poland. Dubois is. I'm unfamiliar with his career largely, but I know Usyk, and this seems like a stay busy fight to get Usyk to the Tyson Fury fight, um, which is fine. Like I can understand that. The dude he hasn't fought in quite a bit here. Since he beat Joshua, he's been kind of down and out. So that's a big fight in August, heavyweight title fight. And speaking of Anthony Joshua, Anthony Joshua is going to take on Dillian White at the O2 Arena. What date is that? Let me just pull that up. So they've already fought before, so this will be a rematch. That's a big. It's not a big fight. Also, kind of seems like a stay busy fight. What I'm hearing through the media sources I listen to is that this fight is actually going to be also it's similar to the Usyk fight where it's stay busy, but it's to get Joshua bridged to Deontay Wilder, um, which would be fun. That would be a fun fight. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder would be a really fun fight. And that goes
Oh
down
yeah.
August 12th at the O2. So on DAZN pay-per-view, if anybody's interested in that. A couple of little rumors out there I want to touch on. It kind of sounds like Tyson Fury is going to fight Francis Ngannou, bro. I mean, it's not been announced yet, but it's starting to get there, man. What do you think about that fight? I mean, what's your gut instinct on how that one goes?
So I like the term puncher's chance, but not in professional boxing. Get the bag for sure, but like,
For sure. I mean, he's gonna get
whoo,
paid.
I mean, yeah, but like, I don't see him connecting with the
Tyson.
power that he has. Like, like the one thing, not the one thing, but the main thing he has is he's technically the strongest puncher on the planet.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like Tyson. Well, technically, but like I think who arguably is actually the most powerful puncher alive is probably Deontay Wilder. And Fury took those shots, man. He got dropped by Fury or
Yo,
Wilder
Tyson
dropped him like 5 times in three
Tyson Fury
fights.
rose from the grave.
He really
He,
did.
you nary will see anything like when he sucked the life back into himself through sheer willpower. After he just
Bro, he
came back
channeled
up.
he channeled his
No,
inner Undertaker right
he
there.
was. That's what it was. It was the Undertaker because he wasn't.
Yeah.
He was not conscious. He was like,
No.
"Oh, I'm just knocked out. Just do." He's like, "Wait, I'm fighting."
Yeah.
Shut
Well,
up.
he said at the time that Jesus told him to get up. He said he
You
saw
see
Jesus.
what kind
Told
of
him.
outer body experience where God's like,
So
it's not
Deontay
your
Wilder
time.
killed the boy.
It's yes, it's not your time. Just kisses his hand and like touches his forehead. He just you're like, I gotta win this fight. I can't hit the ground again. Or else Jesus said if I go back, I'm staying. Just,
Not
no,
only
see,
that
like
though.
that's his eyes unroll from it. Like it's
Yeah.
uncanny. It's
You
kind of
actually can see it, yeah. If you see behind,
yeah.
like if
He
you
like
look close, like his eyelids are like kind of spazzing, like
dude,
as though he was knocked out. He was knocked out, man. And
he
he
was in
he
a different plane. He
I
was
think
not.
so, man.
When he said he talked to Jesus, I believe that. Now that
He
you
was
said I
that was
didn't
one
know
of
that.
the most fun fights I've ever watched live. It was a little stressful because I was illegally streaming it, but it was
Oh,
I was kind of bouncing in and out, and that fight was so back and forth. I mean, you didn't want to miss much on it, but it was. He fought him a
and
third time though. In the third fight was a fucking straight up slobber knocker, and just an absolute slobber knocker. I mean, they both were dropped multiple times each. I think Tyson got dropped like 3 times in that fight, and then Wilder was dropped 4 times, including the knockout. So it was just that was one of the another one. It's just an unbelievable fight. But if Fury is taking Deontay Wilder's punishment, which
Trained,
okay,
trained
let's say that
pugilist.
Ngannou, right, but let's say that Ngannou has like similar power, or that the power shots are like comparable, right? If they're comparable, Deontay, there's no way Ngannou is going to bring more technical
Yeah,
prowess
he's not exactly. He's not
than
going to land
Deontay.
as much as those technical. He's not
Yeah,
going to land as
so
much as those power punches at
it,
all.
it's clear how this one's going to go. I mean, I'm pretty
It's just
confident.
it's a cash grab. Have him have
Yeah,
it. I
yeah, and you know what? Good for
hope no one
him.
gets hurt.
Yeah,
But
there's
I
word
don't.
that it's an exhibition, which is kind of takes the fun out of it a little bit. You want
Yeah,
the
they're always
danger factor.
exhibitions.
Yeah, I don't like that if it's an exhibition, I'm going to be a little hesitant on paying for it because like the danger factor is that like
Oh, you pay for the? I mean, yeah, no, you should
well
pay for them. You should
well
always pay for them.
you should pay for these events because it's important to do so. But anyway, so that's being rumored. I don't know when that's going down, or it sounds like it's going to be backed by like Saudi money, so it'll probably be in the Middle East at some point this year. Keep your eyes peeled for that.
You see how they
Another
bought
one.
that? You see how they
Sorry, go
merged
ahead.
with the PGA?
Yeah, I did see that. I don't know. It's like that sports washing shit is not for me. I'm not into it. You
Well,
know.
that's how. All right, so not to be like political, but that's how you gain influence. That's how you gain influence on a world scale is by sports. That's
Yeah,
why.
sports washing has been going on for a really long time. It's not
Yeah.
new, and the Saudis specifically, like I don't know,
Well,
man.
that's why with the World Cup, that's why it's held in Qatar.
Yeah, I know, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Like, I didn't watch a lick of that shit, and that's not why, but like, because I'm just not a soccer fan
Soccer
or a
fan.
football fan. But if we were
You
talking,
better
if it was
correct
base,
yourself. This is America.
if it was if it was a baseball event that was being held by the Saudis, I'd have a real hard time with it. I'd have a
Man,
hard time
imagine
with that.
playing baseball in the desert with the
They playing
sun
over damn
shining.
baseball.
Like, wee.
Yeah, well, there's no way they could do it. I mean, those uniforms, somebody
No, because
died.
here I'm just being ignorant, but like, because you could
Well,
have a
we are. That's what we
stadium, you
do.
could like, they've terraformed islands. I'm pretty sure they could make like this, but
Oh
it's just
yeah,
funny to
yeah.
think of. It's
Well,
just funny to.
The Habib Poirier fight, I remember they like built that stadium like overnight. Like they just built it for that event because that's how big a star Habib was. Is that they just were just like, okay,
It's
we'll
because
build you whatever
he's
you want.
because of his religion, because he
Yeah,
was
Muslim.
yes.
Okay, but let's keep moving forward. Let's plow ahead a little bit here. I just want to touch on these last two rumored bouts that are potentially in the works, or at least they've been reported to be in the works. Davison Figueiredo might be taking on Dominic Cruz. That's weird because he's been talking about staying at flyweight and Cruz at bantamweight. I don't love that fight for him, but I don't know where Dom's at in his career. I love that dude. He's great. He's a great commentator, great fighter, but I personally think it might be time, might be time to hang him up. But that's just I can't tell another man to retire. I mean, it's not my place, but that's just what I
Don't tell him
think.
to his face.
Oh fuck no, fuck no. I just tell him how damn. I just ask him what book he's read most recently. Another rumored bout. This is not really a rumored bout. It's definitely going down, but I just don't know when it has been booked. And that's going to be that welterweight title fight between Leon Edwards, Rocky Edwards, and Colby Covington. So that fight's going down. When it goes down, I simply do not know. Keep your eyes peeled for those 3 bouts that are potentially in the works. Should be an announcement probably at some point here soon on the 3 of those, if and when they do happen. So from here, let's take another short break. And when we get back, we're going to dive into the content of the day. We're going to kick off the ranking show number 1 in our ranking show series. And we're going to talk about the top 5 UFC moments of the calendar year of 2023 so far. So hang tight. We'll be right back. We're back. Let's kick things off. We're gonna do it. This is the first ranking show in our ranking show series. So let's do things. Let's kick things off. What do you think, Errol? Give me your number five moment of the UFC calendar year 2023. Number five. Go ahead.
So I feel like this should maybe be higher up, but it definitely is on the list for me for sure. It would be the Israel Bonfim flying knee.
Oh, the
Uh,
Bonfim
yeah,
knockout.
yeah, that
Interesting.
was no, that was man. Come on, I've been talking about UFC game knockouts. That
That's
flying
a
knee
good one.
slump, that's just over. Like that's
That was a good one over Terrence McKinney. Yeah,
yes,
that was a brutal. That's a good one. Hey, that's not bad. That's and you pulled that one out early. That was back in January. That was a fucking savage knockout.
yeah,
You're
dude,
on the
very
money.
early, like January like 21st or something. It was early in the year. He came out swinging them legs.
Yeah, you know what the crazy about that fight too is that like he's like a really touted prospect, but McKinney is too. McKinney is like that dude. I think he actually McKinney holds the record for the shortest or the fastest UFC lightweight knockout of all time.
Damn.
Like he's young. He's not like it's not like he's like been around a while and he nailed one. Like he just happened to get it in one of his first fights. He just I think it's I don't know what it was. It was something ridiculous, like barely like 11 seconds or something. He got a knockout. So to see him get flatlined like that was like Jesus Christ.
Right.
Okay, so that's your number five. Let me give my number five is not quite a and by the way I should mention in this in our top five this is specifically around fights. This isn't like storylines that are going on outside of the sport. We're just talking fights, like moments inside the octagon, we'll call it.
Yeah.
So my number five is actually this one could be higher up too, but Alexa Grasso at UFC 285 shocks the world and upsets Valentina Shevchenko by submitting her in the fourth round. That's my number five, and the reason that's my number five is because I thought that was to see Shevchenko get beat finally is quite insane. Because I mean, she's had some close fights in recent memory, but she's been basically a completely dominant force in that division. And Grasso was not like the odds were way stacked against her. Like I can't remember what the actual odds were, but Shevchenko was a heavy favorite,
Oh
and
yeah.
Grasso subbed her right out. I thought that was a pretty big deal, just given on the overall landscape of the sport and especially the women's side of the sport. It was a big one. It was a big moment.
Yeah,
And what
it was big for me too, big enough to be my number 4.
No kidding. Oh wow.
Yep.
So that's your number four. That's interesting. Okay, so we can move right into number four, and we can continue talking about it a little bit. So what was your how what's your reaction to that moment? What did it
Oh
make you
no,
think?
almost just exactly what you're saying. Shevchenko was just such like a dominant force that it was just it not expected at all, and just to like to come out, man, that's pretty good stuff. Love to see it.
Yeah, at that point you kind of expected if you're going to see Shevchenko lose that it would probably be over 5 rounds in a decision or something. But to see her get finished was like nobody's seen that before. I don't think she's ever been finished up until that point, and it was a it was to see her get subbed too. I think she got choked out was unbelievable. And they're gonna speaking of which, that was a fight announcement I could have included. They are gonna run that back in September um, for that. It'll be a championship bout on a free ESPN card on Mexican Independence Weekend. So
Okay.
that's a big deal. They're doing it at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas in September. I can get the exact date pulled up, but that's an interesting tidbit because they never do title fights for free. Like they'll never do a title fight that's just on like national television. It's usually a pay-per-view just because the champions get pay-per-view points. Um,
Hmm.
but this is actually the second time that Shevchenko has fought on a free card in a championship bout, which as a viewer I kind of appreciate because I like to see big fights for free. I don't want it to go out $80 or um, it's tough to pay for cards when you're like you know there's one already, one every month, sometimes two. Like there's two actually this month. So it's nice to get a free championship bout. And that's actually going down on Saturday, September 16th, Mexican Independence Day. And Alexa Grasso is Mexican. So perfect combo there. So that was your number four. Let me give my number four. My number four took place a few weeks later, also in a month that had two pay-per-views. This took place in London at UFC 286. Leon Edwards defeats and upsets Kamaru Usman a second time by defeating him this time over 5 rounds at that UFC 286 card in London, in his hometown too, which I thought was just unbelievable. Only because he had been touted as like his head. You remember the head kick from last year, right? That
Yeah,
Usman got knocked out.
dude. But did you see him like practicing it though?
Oh, it was intentional without a doubt. I mean,
Dude, it
that head
was
kick was there.
textbook.
Yeah, and he hit the money shot on Usman and knocked him out cold. But even still with that, there was doubt that like, okay, Usman got distracted or was complacent or whatever you can say. That conversation was going on. Like Usman's the true champion. Edwards, just caught him slipping for that flash in the pan moment. Leon Edwards proved that shit to be nonsense because in their trilogy fight, he went out there and beat him cleanly. In my opinion, it was clean. It was a very close fight, but it was pretty clean. He had gotten 3 of those rounds, potentially 4. And he beat him fair and square at this point in the trilogy. And I don't know that Usman will ever get another crack at that old belt. And he was, what a fall from grace, this guy. I mean, he was being compared to GSP and like he was the pound for pound king. And he was just like you just didn't expect him to lose. And
Yeah,
Rocky
dude,
Edwards
and
came
also
in
to
and did
be
it.
compared to the great Saint Pierre, dude.
That's a big deal.
Arguably one of the like, if not the best of all time.
Yeah, I mean
Like
he's
for
in the conversation of top like 2 or 3. He's somewhere in that mix. It's like,
he's if you ask me, he's absolutely top three.
yeah, I would say it's hard to argue against top 3. If you put him outside of your top 3, I think you're doing a disservice because he only lost twice and he avenged both losses. So like, I mean that's
What
a
do you want from someone? Like,
yeah. I mean
what
he's
more
like I
can you do
lost.
in your fight? Like
And
you lost, and then you're just like, nah, run it back.
yeah, and one of them was Matt Hughes, and he beat him twice. He
And
like came back and beat him the second time, and then he was like, "Let's go a
Is
third time."
another dude. Matt Hughes is another top 10. If you
For
ask me,
maybe, yeah,
dude,
maybe.
Matt Hughes is
Nah,
a
maybe not top
monster.
10, but Matt Hughes was a
I think
monster.
so. I think
I
so.
wouldn't put him top 10, but he was a monster. He was definitely a
If
monster.
he's not top 10, then he'll be in my top 10 moments because that drag across the cage. How are you gonna pick someone up and be like, I want to talk to my corner,
Yeah,
and
I want to
then
bring
run
him
him
over to my
across?
side. I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
You run him across the other
Who's that
like
against
the
again? Who's that? That was
who was that against?
Jesus. Boy, that's gonna be tough to pull. That one's that's a deep pull right there. That's a deep pull.
No,
Um,
it shouldn't be.
fuck, who was it?
Who was it? The
Uh, was it he finished him too? God damn, what was it? Was it Joe Riggs? No, I don't think it was that one. Shit, I can't remember. Anyways, um, well, anyway, we'll move on. Unless you're looking it up, and if you find it, then let me know. But
we can move on. But yeah, look
all right, go to number 3. What's your number 3 pick? So because mine was so far we've got mine was my 5 was Alexa Grasso beating Shevchenko. Yours was the Israel Bonfim uh, flying knee knockout. My number 4 was Leon Edwards upsetting Kamaru Usman, and your number 4 was the Alexa Grasso fight. So give me number 3. Let's see where you're at.
I'm gonna get dude the Lawler sign off.
Oh, so you did pump in a UFC 290.
Yeah, no, I did. I like pretty much left after that. I saw some of the highlights, but I saw that fight. Yeah,
And
no,
you
that
pumped it in
was
there. That's you know what I fucking love that too. I'm glad you did that
dude.
because I wish I kind of would have pumped that in here. It is
It's
a top
great.
5 moment.
It's crazy. Yeah, exactly. Like that's crazy. Like I almost flipped this out with number two.
Mm-hmm.
Just with how like I don't want to say like historical, but it's what more could you ask for? Guy rolls up, um, And then, like, he's clearly the favorite. It's his last fight. He feels
Oh no, he
emotional
was an
about it.
underdog. Believe it or not, he was an
He was the
underdog.
underdog.
Yeah, he was an under. Well, because he's old, and Nico Price is like younger, and
So
uh,
so tell that to the crowd
yeah, no shit.
who was able to get the cheer of let's go Lawler. Like, so it's a whisper, let's go Lawler. And then it's
Right.
a, you can kind of hear it, let's go Lawler. And then they get one crowd cheer, let's go Lawler. And then bop, 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 bop. And then the guy drops. Like, he hits him as they get the actual first let's go Lawler, like, as a crowd. And he just rocks him. The dude just crumbles. I was
Well,
like,
the
oh my.
best dude. I'll be honest. He looked fucking. This dude looked fast as shit out there. I mean, his hand speed was still there. It's like you wonder if he feels like, maybe I shouldn't retire. I still got something left here.
Dude, that's what I was thinking. I was like, after that, I was like, you have one more. I was like, you lose one real quick. Like, if it is a bit, dude, I was like, you beat his ass, dude. Do one more. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, one more.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's amazing. You know what? You know what? You already. I think you just beat me on this fight because you're on this
On the
moment here on
moments.
the moments because like I didn't want to include anything from 290 just because I felt like that's officially on the other side of the second half of the year, but like there were no rules about it. I mean, it is what it is. Like, but I definitely agree with you. That's a top five. Especially they put that like nice video package together for him at the
Yeah,
end. It
yeah,
was I got
exactly.
emotional watching that straight
Dude,
up.
I did too.
It was
I got a
like
little emotional watching that.
mhm,
And that's the thing. Like, it was just, for, if this is the send off, which, dude, Rob,
definitely is.
stay
Definitely
around,
is.
man. Dude,
I
definitely,
know.
man.
No,
You can
no,
do
he
that.
needs to because listen, you
Well, and
never
also that's
get
the
to
thing
go out
too.
on top like or
And that's the
not
thing.
on
Yeah,
top, but like
if it is a send off too, out as a beast, like, just out as bop,
right.
bop, bop, bop,
Came out the
done.
way he came in.
Right, just
Big knockout.
folding people.
Yeah. He must have kind of felt, you know what? He must have kind of felt there must have been like a little ounce of disappointment too, because he was
I
like,
You could
he just got
see
the
it.
knockout.
You could
He's like,
see it. It was so bittersweet. If
not
it
that, not
was,
just that though. Like he didn't even get to really get going. Like
well,
he
no,
was
that's
just
what, like, you can almost see it.
so
Like, it's
quick.
like it was over before it started, and it's like,
Yeah, he had a lot of
it's so
adrenaline still to get rid of.
right, and it's so great, and it's the last time you're gonna hear the cheers too. And but, like,
Yeah.
what other better way than just, like, just starting, like, because you don't want to get hurt. You know what I mean? You don't want to. You don't. Yeah, it's a good fight if it's close, but you don't want it to be close. You don't want to go out there and, like, barely earn your keep. Went out there and just boof, boof, boof,
Starched him.
boof. Yeah, right. Just boom. That's why y'all had me here. That's why I'm here to compete, or that's why I was. I'll see you. See you in the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame. Put
Yeah,
it.
that's pretty great.
Add that to the highlight reel. Tag
Oh,
that
that
onto
might
the
be the
video we're
one. Like
watching.
that's the one they'll show because it's most recent, and it was also like he's one of the first retirees that like was like I'm gonna retire, and then and like he says it ahead of the fight, then goes into the retirement fight and actually gets like a spectacular knockout. That's not a thing that happens much, but
He did say he was. Yeah, yeah. You're right though. Usually it's just someone gets fed up one time and they chuck the gloves into the audience. They're just
yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
not even just that. They're mostly just most of the time if they especially if they announce that it's a retirement it's usually like Frankie Edgar's retirement fight was a bad one. Like he got matched up against like a killer and got knocked out cold. And they just I don't know. Sometimes it gets kind of nasty and it's not fun to watch these guys retire sometimes. But this was a moment like please stay retired because that was what fans want to see when like their heroes go out in a blaze of glory like that and victorious.
oh
Um,
yeah.
but that was your number three. That's a good pull right there, Errol. I got to give it to you. But my number three, I actually still think is a quality number three, and it's a quality number three on this silly little list. But it will go down in the pantheon of like all time fights, in my opinion. It is an unbelievable bout, and that was shown in Perth, Australia, at UFC 284 back in February of this year, when Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev went all 5 rounds in an arguably fight of the year and truly one of the most exciting fights you will ever see, especially in a fight where like it had everything. It had wrestling. There were moments on the feet. There were knockdowns. There were submission attempts. There was there was taunting, there was like trash talk. I mean, it had everything. And I think part of that fight that was so interesting is that now that Habib is gone, Islam is kind of like, he's the heir apparent to Habib in a lot of ways. And
Hmm.
nobody ever saw Habib in like danger, really. Like there's like obviously I mean, whatever. There's the old trope that like
That man has,
he
dude.
never bled.
He
Right. He
never
always
bled, bro.
never
That's the
bled.
thing. I was like, he never lost a round. It's borderline. Who was that one Russian wrestler who like never lost a point? Granted, he was half steroids, but can't think of his name. He's like the most fucking scary person
I
ever.
don't know. I
Hold on,
don't know who
give me a
you're
second,
referring
because
to.
continue with
Well, you
your
look it up and I'll
yeah.
continue. But so in my opinion, it was like Habib is so Islam is like the heir apparent, and that's largely true because he's only lost once and he's otherwise looked completely dominant. But this was the first time where like, okay, I think most viewers, and Errol, if you stay with me on this one, I think
Hmm.
most viewers were kind of like substituting Islam into the Habib thing, where like, okay, this is the next. We're gonna get a follow up. This is like the sequel. This is like
I was
Habib
right
was
in that.
right. Habib is the Godfather, and the Godfather Part Two is Makhachev, where it's like, okay, this is gonna be good, and it potentially could be. He could be even better, maybe. Like his career could be even better. And no, and every time that people thought that someone was everybody was talking shit. Like Connor's gonna go in there and beat Habib. Gagey will go in there and beat Habib. Poirier will beat Habib, and he just mopped up all of them. And this was the first time. This was the first time that I think people were like, "Oh shit!" Like Islam never looked human until he ran into Volkanovski. And Volkanovski,
Yeah.
I'll take this. I'll take this all. I've watched that fight probably 3 or 4 times total. Probably could watch it again if I wanted, and likely still because all 4 times I've come up with the same, the same conclusion, which is Volkanovski won the fight, and that's just what I think. And Islam did get his hand raised, but for me, Volkanovski won that fight. And there's a ton you could talk about that fight forever. There's so much that went on, and it was just an unbelievable fucking bout. And um, for me, it was so fun to watch because it was like finally we have a fighter who's like met the match of like the it was like an immovable object meets what is it? It's like a unlimited force meets an unmovable
Yeah,
object,
unstoppable force, a movable
unstoppable
object.
force,
Yeah.
right? It's like that was like the moment where it happened, where I was like, oh shit, this is a fight. It's a real fight, and it was so fun to watch. It was probably I would say it's the most fun I've had watching a full 5 round fight this year easily. But we've got 2 more to go, so we'll keep rolling. Errol, what was your number two?
Uh, it was honestly, I feel bad. It was your it was the Izzy. Oh no, sorry, no, never mind. Yeah, no, my number two was the Izzy Pereira second
Oh, the
fight.
knockout. So when Israel knocks out Alex Bejeda to regain the middleweight championship fight.
No, the fight before that.
Oh, that was last year. See, that one
It
doesn't count.
was.
Wait, which one are you
Oh
talking about? When
no,
Adesanya knocks out Bejeda?
I was talking about when Pajeda knocked out. That was last
Oh,
year.
yeah, that was last year.
Oh my god,
Oh, we should have vetted your list. You blew it.
I gotta stop drinking. Okay, then yeah, no, we'll see. All right, so I'll say
Plug in the second one. Plug in
yeah,
the
that's
sequel.
exactly what. Yeah, so
That's what you do on the fly. This is
the
radio.
first one, yep, the first one, I was really kind of impressed. I didn't think a lot of people. You'll probably think I was wrong too, dude. I didn't look like Pajeda was hanging with it, and
No,
then
I mean, he got the finish, but like, I thought if that fight went to the bell, Izzy would, no, it's not even a question. Izzy's taking that fight if it goes all the way to the
right.
bell, but he got finished,
Yeah.
man.
So for him to come by and like just confirm what quote unquote he, thought in such a spectacular fashion,
Mm-hmm.
um very savory for Izzy, very good for him.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's
So
apropos. So like
so
well, let me give my number two because then I'm just gonna spoil it now. My number one is the Adesanya, knockout back in April when he knocks out Pereira or Pereira, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
That's my number one.
So
That's
my
easy my
number
number.
two, or my number two was that, and I had like the kind of back and forth with it is what but I forgot that we were when you said we were talking about just like the fights, I was like, oh no.
Well, this will be interesting. So we'll see what your number one is. Let me give my actual number two, and then I'll give my number two, and then you'll give your number one, and then I want to circle back to the Adesanya knockout because there's a bunch to say about that. So your number two is the Adesanya knockout. My number two was John Jones coming back after multiple years and just absolutely demolishing Cyril Gahn in the first round at UFC 285 and
Just coming
getting
back and showing up.
yeah and just literally just absolutely bulldozing Cyril Gahn and regaining the heavyweight championship. And then like of all the thing that I think it will age the best of that moment in the sports history is when he says, "I got one more thing," grabs the mic and hits you with the bah, hits you with that goat bah. And I thought, like, man, this dude's he was just on top of the world that night. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's like the most accomplished mixed martial artist ever. And like that was the apex. That was like the best he ever. I've never been more impressed by John Jones. We'll put it that way.
John Jones is the baddest man on the planet right now, if you ask me.
Period. Period. I think he beats the shit out of Francis Ngannou too, to be honest with you. But
I do too. And also, if you roll it, there's not a worse posse that you can roll up on or get rolled up on besides like, a literal like, United States like Navy SEAL team.
right.
But that would be John Jones and his brothers.
Yeah, yeah. You just got the baddest
Just
dudes
the
that ever
three
walked in the room.
baddest guys in any room at any time, unless like you have the weaponry, like high
Yeah.
caliber weaponry.
Yeah, it's a problem. All right, so give me your number one. I'm titillated here. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Dude, you said it, man. It was the Edwards Usman, man.
Oh, the Edwards fight. Really?
I love
Dang,
me
yours that
some
was your number
Leon.
one. You
I
love
love me
Rocky
some.
Edwards.
Well, it was yeah, he was it was just like the first fight where he hits the gets the head kick and like just everything. It's so it's such an inspirational story because
Oh yeah.
I think Kamaru Usman is the more athletic person. Like if I had to choose to fight the two of those people, like you have to fight one of them. Man, I'm choosing the champ. I'm, I'm
It's
not
literally a
fighting.
Rocky story though. It's like
Right.
he it's so funny because he's literally a Rocky story, and his nickname has always been Rocky.
And like it's just it's such a beautiful thing. Like just you could tell it was like a whole like camp thing. Like it was everyone, the whole team coming together, like working for him to like achieve
Yep,
the goal. Not only
exactly.
once, but fucking reassuring that it wasn't just a fluke and that he's here for it. And
Yeah.
that's I think Leon Edwards fighter of the year, no question.
Yeah, that's an amazing choice. I actually like in hindsight, it really was such a moment too, because like I think that like made the head kick knockout even bigger, which I didn't even think was possible because like of how
Right.
unbelievably cool it was
I was
at the
so
time.
scared for him both fights, man. And dude, I love Kamaru Usman. I was so hard to. I was like, I was like,
I
gotta vote
know.
for the quote unquote good guys. Like neither of them are bad, but like you got to vote for the underdog, man. You got to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I love Usman too, and his career should be like it'll be respected when he's gone. But like this did take those two losses take a big hit on him. I mean, his career is definitely taking a step back. We'll see how he looks when he comes back. It sounds
Honestly,
like he might.
I truly think it just says more about Leon Edwards than it does to take away from Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I
It's
think he
just
just
it's the
leveled up. Dude just
Leon
leveled
Edwards is
up.
just a pressure cooker, man. He's just
He just
fucking.
waiting
He's
to
ready
blow.
for it. He's fucking. Well, he's just he's ready for it, dude. Dude was fucking born at the bottom of the sea, dude. He's good under pressure. When it gets like really gritty, like because
Yeah.
that's the thing. A lot of the time, if you are someone as talented as like Kamaru Usman, or if you're like a generational talent, like you're just built different, you can rely on that strength that you have. You can just rely on that generational talent that you have, like just being built different.
Yeah.
You can tell like Leon just an in shape guy, but he wasn't the most like in shape person. Like he had to. It's the dude. It's what I was saying earlier. It's the willpower.
They also made him
You,
take the long road. Like he had to fight so many more times. He had to put together like a 12 unbeaten streak, 12
because
fight
they didn't,
unbeaten
because no one
streak.
believed him. I didn't even believe him
No,
when he stepped up. I don't
I
even
didn't
believe him now
either,
that
to be
he's
honest.
champion.
Well, this is why I'm so curious to see what happens with him against Covington, because Covington is going to test him in a little different way.
I'm
Because
so,
Covington,
dude. I'm so scared that Covington's just gonna just
yeah, Covington's
get
going to
it
wrestle
just
his
for,
ass.
dude.
He's going to wrestle his
I'm
ass.
so like not like worried, but I'm gonna be so mad when he like if
If he wins,
Colby
yeah, me too.
just wins, and like he gets a chance
Especially
because
when it's Rocky. Like if he beat Usman, Usman's a little cringy
well,
sometimes. I
that's it. He
love
doesn't
Kamaru,
want, but
but
that's the thing. He doesn't. I guarantee he doesn't want to fight Kamaru again. I know he
who
doesn't.
Covington?
Yeah,
Covington? No, yeah, probably not. I
I
mean, he
know he
won't.
doesn't.
No. But let me say before we move on, we'll take a quick break next. But before we move into the bonus segment, I want to make sure we have some time to talk about really quickly my number one and your number two, which was that Izzy knockout of Pereira at 287 in Miami for that middle to get back his middleweight belt. In my opinion, I have never been more like amped up, completely fucking. I mean, I was shocked too. Like, I hate to say that because I believe in that dude. That's
I
my favorite fighter
so
by far, and I will say
so
that like
I wasn't
purely,
I wasn't
purely biased.
shocked. I wasn't shocked as much as I was during the first fight when Alex did go toe to toe with him. So like
Mhm.
when it happened, I don't want to say it was like relief, but at the same time I was like I kind of knew like as like
Well,
from what I was feeling from the first fight, it was kind of rocky. But like, did you
mm,
see like the disrespect? So like he hits him with the probably not the exact reference because he's just shooting a ball at him. But I was like, how are you gonna hit him with the Minecraft?
I hit him
Just
with
hit him
three.
with the drum, the
Yeah,
bow
but
drum.
you get the reference to the bows,
Yeah,
right? Like
because it's the yeah
it's his
the
walkout.
right.
That's Pereira's walkout. But like the beautiful part about it was like, in my opinion, what like people like just like the so you got like the Usman and the Leon fight, right? That had like there's so much like theater involved in that, like in a lot of ways, because of like just how things played out. This is like the same thing. It's very similar, but I think even more because it's like redemptive, where like it's redemptive in these beautiful ways. Let
It's
me explain. Like,
it's it
let me explain just for a second.
yeah.
He basically so Izzy wins most of that first fight, right? And Izzy also almost knocks Pereira out in the first fight. This is at UFC 281 in New York City at MSG. In the first
Yes.
round, Izzy almost knocks out Pereira. He hits him with an overhand right and a left hook, and right at the buzzer in the first round. And
He
Pereira
almost had him.
survives. Yeah, and he stumbled. And if that round continues,
He would have
knockout for
had him.
sure.
He
But
would have
he
had him
got
on. He
on
would have had him on
skates.
skates and then froze
Yep,
him
for
like
sure.
Elsa.
Yep. So then they move on. The fight continues, and we see what happens. Pereira knocks Izzy out in the last round, and he backs him up against the cage, hits him with that like crazy ass left hook from hell that Pereira has, and knocks him out. In the second fight, and this is what I think is so fucking unbelievable. You can't write this stuff. It's so poetic. Izzy draws him in. I don't know if this is intentional, if this is part of the game plan or not. I don't think he's ever been public about it, but I just like to believe it because it makes it even more theatric. Izzy draws him in up against the cage to throw the same fucking combination that Izzy was knocked out in with in the first fight, and he throws it. Pereira throws it. He throws it's like a check left hook, and Izzy's covered up. He digs to the body with the right hand, and then he's trying to land that left hook on Izzy, and he initially hits him to back him up first, and Israel backs up against the cage, from what eyes can see, and instead of like it was almost like he channeled like I'm not fucking going out like this again, or it was like I know if I let him hit me a
He's like
few
I've been
times.
here. Yeah.
Well, it was almost like I know what he's gonna do in this moment because he got me with it last time. So I'm gonna make him do it again, but this time I'm gonna counter with the same overhand right that I almost knocked him out with, and it was like the two knockouts combined, right from the first fight.
Right.
It was
Like
like
he took everything he learned from both fights and combined
it's
it.
beautiful, it's beautiful, and it was like almost like Izzy got the knockout, got an almost knockout in the first round, and then got knocked out in the fifth. He took both of those scenarios and combined them into his knockout and was like, now I just got to get this right. The
He's like, I was
formula's got to
almost,
be just
yeah.
right.
He's like, I was almost there for the perfect scenario both times. I just need to
And
line
and
it
he
up.
did it too. And obviously, the celebration and like,
No,
in my opinion, it
that
was the
is
most incredible knockout of the year, in my moment of the year for sure.
that is beautiful because it goes to show exactly how close he was to winning those other fights.
Of course.
It was a coin flip. It
Yeah.
was legitimately a coin flip, and he proved it by bringing that scenario
Yeah,
back in real time.
he rose to the occasion in a way that like I've never seen a fighter do, because like he had already lost. Remember, he lost to Pereira in kickboxing twice before
Yeah,
that.
that's what I
And
was
so
gonna
like
say earlier.
dude's 0-3 against him on combat sports, and he was just like, it don't matter. It doesn't matter. This is a new fight, and he figured out a way to land the knockout punch, that overhand right, and just he cleaned him up. And in my opinion, I think that I went berserk. I mean, I just went so berserk when that happened because he is my favorite fighter. I mean, his personality is like, I don't know, he's just cool as the other side of the pillow for me. And he's to see him succeed is like he's an exciting fighter every time out, and I love his fight style. He's the best, and that getting that done was great, and I can't wait to see what the next fight brings. So
Oh, not to draw away from them, but I remember that Russian guy was Alexander Karelin, the Russian,
I've I don't think I've ever even heard of him, but he sounds
the
like a
Russian
savage.
bear, dude. We might
Oh, the
even
Russian
need,
Bear. I think I've heard of this.
yeah, we might even need to like borderline talk about him. He didn't lose a point in
Jesus,
like Olympic wrestling. Like how
my
did
God.
not a round. He didn't. No one scored a point on him.
Oh, Jesus. He was,
How do you
was the
like not
Russian
get?
King Kong.
Yeah, you don't no takedowns, no reversals, no anything, no escapes, no escapes. That's the thing that gets me because when I wrestled, I was bad at wrestling, and I would get an escape. Get me out of this. Get one time, break the grip, stand up, take him back down.
Jesus.
Dang it!
He did lose
But
in the Olympics, though. He lost a decision in the 2000
oh
Olympics.
yeah, no, he did to the American.
Yeah, he did eventually.
He
So he
did.
eventually did lose, but for the time that he didn't, he was not losing
Yeah, no,
anything.
yeah, exactly. But no, I
Yeah.
forgot. How did I forget that, dude? I've not
Yeah.
American, man. I should have watched that on the
Yeah,
Fourth
that's
of
all right.
July, dude. That American dude. It was just a big boy, just a
Yeah,
big
he
old
ran into
farm
another
boy.
bear, this time American.
But the thing was, is the American, he wasn't quote unquote like doing steroids. He was just a just an
Just a dog.
American, clean American muscle.
Yeah.
And he fucking, yeah, exactly. He just dogged him. He fucking beat him. I think he might have won with like an escape or something. I think he got like he
I
got the
see.
points and then he just needed to wait it out, and it was just like it was unheard
That was
of.
enough.
It was a position that Alexander's like never been in where he needed to score, and he's just like, nope, just not gonna. If I'm not mistaken, he's like just not gonna let you do it, and then fucking
Yeah. Fuck
it's either
yeah.
that or he had to like hit a reversal or an escape like the last couple seconds. Either way, it was wild. It was one of those. It was a honestly, I think that story is better than the Mighty Ducks. I think it's a more harrowing, especially knowing that the Russian team died back in the day. That's a more harrowing story than the Mighty Ducks, if you ask me.
Well, it says it right here. It says prior to his final match versus American Rulon Gardner in September 2000, which he lost, a point had not been scored against him in
Yeah,
competition in the previous 6 years.
that I'm telling you, that's literally like that's a
That's
Herculean feat. Like
yeah,
that's a
that's
that dude's a
absurd.
monster. Like what do no one's ever escaped his grasp. Go and beat him
Yeah.
for
We'll
America.
plug him in. No, we'll plug him in and somewhere down the road. We'll do
We
it. And
should,
he's
yeah.
we can talk about him.
If not him, then just the fight and the build up.
Yeah. Well, that
Because that's
moment is we could
yeah.
definitely do that.
Oh
That
yeah,
sounds
no, we
interesting.
talk about sports.
We talk
That
about a
could
lot of things. All right, beautiful.
that'd be a moment.
Let's plug that. Well, let's plug that in down the pike here. We got a
We'll
couple
put
already lined up, but we can bookmark that one
we'll
for
put that in the refrigerator and then we'll throw it
yeah,
on the
let it
back burner.
cool. That's right. All right, so let's take a short break, and we are gonna jump into our bonus segment after this. We're gonna put together our UFC 300 fantasy card. That card's probably coming up in the spring. We don't know. We don't have an exact date, or matchups haven't even been speculated yet. But we're gonna listen. This is gonna be a fantasy card. Remember, folks, this is a fantasy card. This is just what we want to see. It's not about the realistic nature of whether or not their schedules match up or who's champion and who's this and who's that. this is just it's a fantasy card for Errol and I to just throw your
Have
way and see
fun.
if you enjoy it. Yeah, these are fun matchups that we want to see. So we'll take a short break and then we will come back and we will pump that out. So hang tight, we'll be right back. Okay, Peripheral Views listeners, we are back, and we're going to close out this episode with our bonus segment, our UFC 300 card. Errol, you want to kick things off? Give me your first fight of the UFC 300 fantasy card.
Oh, I thought we were gonna do just boom, boom, bing, bong.
Oh, you want to do it like that? Yeah, we can do it like that. Let me.
I thought we were.
Yeah, you go ahead and just pump yours out.
Let me go first because I think I got
I want to see whose is better, and I think
You know what, dude? I almost want you to go first because I'm like positive I have a better one.
You think so?
Yeah, go for it. I'm confident. Go first.
All right, I'll go first. I'll gladly go first. You went first on the last one, so you went first on the last one. So let's do it. I'll go first. Okay.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
All right, let's do it. So for my first fight of the night, this is on the Fantasy UFC 300 card. Fight number one is going to be the UFC Women's Flyweight Championship fight. Rose Namajunas moving up to 125 to challenge who I imagine will be the flyweight champion at the time, Valentina Shevchenko. Rose Namajunas versus Valentina Shevchenko for the flyweight championship fight. That's what we got from fight number one. That's a fucking crazy fight, by the way.
I like that. And I thought Rose, she'd bring up people too.
Yeah, she's fighting at 125 now, so she's like officially moved up to 125. Big time fight. That would be fun. Fight number two. Okay, so from here on, you're really buckle in. This is gonna get good. Fight number two. A rematch. Now, I thought about this being higher up on the card, to be honest with you, and I actually think it probably should be. Should be almost number one. But I'm gonna put it at my number 4 slot. The UFC Lightweight Championship, a rematch between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski in their second fight. And by the way, that's not even unrealistic because those two are going to get matched up again at some point. When and where, I don't know. Fight number 3. And this is right before the co-main. Next up after this will be the co-main and main event. So fight number 3. By the way, so far these are all championship bouts, and realistically, I'm trying to include who I think will be champion at the time, and they might not be right now, but I assumed them to be at the time. Fight number 3, UFC light heavyweight championship bout. Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prohatska. Which,
Okay.
let me tell you something. You said you hadn't seen Yuri Prohatska fight. That
Yeah.
fight would be absolutely fucking batshit crazy. Like if we as UFC fans do wind up getting that fight at one point, I don't care where it lands. If it's UFC 300, if it's fucking 320, if that fight happens, fucking get your shillings ready. You will not know. That is a fight you will not want to miss. You cannot miss that fight if you even consider yourself a fight fan anyway. That fight would be so fucking crazy. Um, I mean, just somebody's going to sleep and it's just going to be violence. It's just going to be unbelievably violent. Um, that's my fight number 3. Fight number 4, and this one you'll like, Errol. UFC middleweight championship bout. Israel Adesanya versus Hamzat Chimaev.
I do like that. I do like that. Realistically, I really like that.
Oh yeah, and by the way, also realistic because Chimaev is in the middleweight division now, and like he's basically only one fight away, and we'll see what goes on with old Izzy and Duplessis. We'll see how that fight winds up, but man, that fight would be the ultimate test for Izzy. It'd be great to see Hamzat in a title fight at some point because this dude is a fucking demon from hell, in the welterweight division. All right, so just to recap, before I unveil my main event for this fantasy card, we have number 1 Rose Namajunas versus Valentina Shevchenko. Number 2 Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski 2. Number 3 Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prohatska. Number 4 Israel Adesanya versus Hamzat Chimaev. Errol, get ready. And number 5, your main event of the evening, a UFC heavyweight championship fight between John Jones and the returning Brock fucking Lesnar.
No fucking shot. No fucking shot. They would, dude. You would.
What do you
That
mean?
would.
He's
That
bro.
would.
He's only 45. He's only
That
45.
would. That would tear down the house. That would,
That's what I'm saying.
dude. That would bring out the WWE fans again,
Oh
dude.
my
That would,
god. It
dude.
would
That
be
would
the
have
highest
so much stir.
it would have the highest selling. It's not even that unrealistic, only because, well, I thought about it for a second. I was like, oh man, Brock's probably like almost 50 now. Dude, he's only 40. He just turned like 45. And he's obviously still in shape from the like WWE days. He's teased a comeback within the last couple of years. Jones is the greatest of all time. If there's any fight that Brock could ever get up for to fight, Jones versus Brock Lesnar is a main event heavyweight championship fight like you could not imagine. It's even bigger than way bigger than
It's
Francis
bigger than
too.
them,
It's way bigger than them. Oh, it would fucking deliver. It would deliver, would it not? You know it would. That fight would absolutely deliver.
dude. I would borderline try to make it out for that, just for the
Oh,
fucking
just to be
dude,
in the place, be
just to
in the
be
venue.
giddy.
Oh yeah. So to recap,
So yeah.
let me just do a quick recap and then we're going to shift over to yours. So, number 1, Rose Namajunas versus Valentina Shevchenko, UFC Women's Flyweight Championship. Number 2, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski 2, UFC Lightweight Championship. Number 3, Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prohaska for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Number 4, co-main event, Israel Adesanya versus Hamzat Chimaev in the UFC Middleweight Championship bout. And number 5, in your main event, John Jones, the heavyweight champion, versus returning Brock Lesnar for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Boom. Beat that. Let me see if you can beat that, son.
Okay.
I'm interested though. Let's see what you got. I think you got some more like less like championship center fights that are gonna be way more fun, but I'm curious. Let's do it.
Yeah. Bear with me for 0.2 seconds. Yes. Okay. So first fight. I think it's a little unrealistic, but I would like to see. You know what I'd like to see? I would like to see Zhang Weili
Zhang Weili.
versus Zhang Weili versus Shevchenko, or the winner of the Grasso Shevchenko fight for the Bad
Flyweight.
Mamacita belt.
In the bad moments. Oh, so you're gonna put the BMF on the or
Yeah,
the BM the
the
BM the
BMS.
BMC, right?
I was thinking about something, BMC or something like Bad Mama Jamma, or like like quote,
Oh,
like
that'd be cool.
I think like Baddest Bitch would be a little too on the nose and a little
No, yeah, I don't
uh
like that as much.
right, yeah, but like
I like the
like
bad Mamacita, but
I
that's
bet
like
like the Baddest Mamacita, like all right, so for the weight class, dude, whatever you're comfortable at, just under 135, like just like I think like
yeah,
just to
wherever you're
show
at.
up, you know what I mean? Just like kind of just be honest, just kind
Dude,
of show up with
that fight is amazing. But I mean, I didn't even consider that, but I would love to see that fight. That fight would be
yeah,
so fun.
Shevchenko. Yep. I want to see that just for it doesn't even need to be for a title, but just to get a little stir in the women's fight. There's so
Yeah,
much, but granted, there's a lot more weight classes in the men's, but there's extra belts, there's extra stuff. Get something going, get a little bit of stir the pot for the women's.
I gotta say you're off to a good start because that's pretty excellent right there. Okay, okay, let's move on to the next one.
Well, if you think that's a good start, then dude, my number three is we're looking at Volkanovski versus a Topuria.
Oh, Taporia. Oh, so
Yeah,
you're gonna. Oh,
because they're bad blood.
hell
They're
yeah, yeah.
fucking
There
he
seems to be some heat there
Topuria's been
now.
saying that he's been dodging him. He said you took the easy way out. He's like you
Well,
dodged me. It
it's only because he's trying to go up to the
well
to lightweight
exactly
again.
exactly yeah.
But Taporia is, I mean, that's probably next. That's probably next. I mean, if he doesn't go to lightweight, and it's either your fight or mine. It's gonna be Islam, or he's gonna stay at 145 and he's gonna fight Taporia. I would pick Volk in that fight, to be honest with you. Taporia gets hit a lot. He's fucking
Oh yeah,
excellent,
no,
but
I'd pick Volkanovski too.
yeah, I mean Taporia is excellent, but I would pick Volk to get that done. But boy, I'd love to see that fight. It'd be fireworks.
Yeah, speaking of another person talking about dodging for before we even get into our co-main event, we're looking at Usman Chimaev.
Ooh, yes, bro, you're picking some. These are like hella realistic, by the way.
Dude, bad blood between those two as well, man.
Oh
They're
yeah, oh
fucking
yeah. They're talking all
uh
kinds of shit right now.
yeah, exactly. I want to see him at whatever I want to see Chimaev move up. I want to see him move up.
You know what's great about that? So far, you've named two of your three fights. You might not even have to wait until next year to see. They're probably already going to happen. That's what's so sick. All right.
um and so my co-main event is also pretty realistic, but
Oh,
oh,
hit me.
man. Um we're looking at Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill to settle it, to
Oh,
see
yeah,
who's
yeah.
actually the best when it comes to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that fight is also
When
probably
it comes to the
next.
light heavyweight.
Yeah, count me in on that. Okay, because I mean, those two have been circling each other since Jamal won the belt. So like, count me in on that. Okay.
So pretty much for the fights, I've just been trying to like build it up in the weight class into there. So that would be like a regular Apex, and that actually was my number one for a little bit. But then I was like, this is my fantasy, dude. This is my fucking UFC 300.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're going the craziest fight that could ever happen, at least realistically, if you ask me. We're looking Khabib Nurmagomedov
Oh
versus
shit.
George St. Pierre.
Oh yeah,
We're
yeah.
running them both back to see who's
Okay.
exactly the best
Okay.
tactician of all
Okay.
time. We got a 42-year-old GSP. We got Khabib,
Oh
34 years
shit. I
old,
did
dude.
not think of that.
We got him fighting, man. We got him going at it, dude. That's the Brock Lesnar fight might draw me out. GSP coming out of retirement with Khabib, I am going to sit outside the stadium if I can't afford a ticket. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to literally. I'll be on the radio outside. I'll grill. I'll grill outside. I'll have a. You know what I
Right.
mean. I'll
You're
tailgate.
tailgating this.
Don't even
Yeah.
care. I'm there.
I think well here's my before I talk about the fight, I will say, um, Jesus, I still think my card is better, but goddamn, you might have stumped me on that main event. I think you might have trumped me on the main event. I mean, your card is damn good. Also, your card is hella realistic. Like your
I
your
think
card.
you're. I think you put more like actual thought into the card, into a more feasible one that would be like crazy. I just went kind of balls to the wall. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I
the
was
only
just like, what do I
problem.
want to see?
Well, the only I don't know which. Well, let's ask this question: which main event is more realistic, Jones versus Lesnar or
Jones
Nurmagomedov?
Lesnar, because you only need to get one person out of retirement. Other than no. So
Yeah,
here's the
of
thing.
the both.
Here's the thing. It depends on GSP, because I'm pretty sure
Yeah, he's
GSP is
not fighting.
adamant. Yeah, exactly.
He
I'm
ain't
pretty sure
fighting.
he's adamant in not fighting anymore. But Khabib said the only way he would ever come out of retirement is if he were to fight GSP. He's like,
Yeah,
that's
he's still
the
not. He's not coming either though, because he
yeah.
he came out later and said like because he like promised his mother that like he's not. He promised he
I
wouldn't.
think he goes out for that fight just to that's
You think he
a
would
I think he goes out for that because GSP is uh
all time?
he well so Khabib considers George St. Pierre the greatest fighter of all time
Yeah,
in
I mean that's not unreasonable.
yeah in the UFC. He considers GSP the best. So I'm pretty sure if GSP was like, I will fight you in front of everyone, he's gonna be like, Ma, he's my hero. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I
one more
got
foot.
you.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
he's gonna be like,
maybe,
look, and
maybe.
it's not like they're not gonna go out there. They're not gonna try to like, it's not bad blood. They're not gonna try to break each other's necks. They're not gonna try to like, punch each other. It's a violent sport, but I don't believe that they would go into that like, all right, I need to end this. Like, like just like you might see like a crazy knockout, but I'm pretty sure it's just gonna be a more like, but that's I still think Khabib smash just because
Special. Wait, no, hold
because
on. Special rules. 10 rounds.
GSP will win because no, I don't do. No, I
GSP's
don't
been
know.
finished.
So here's the thing. I think if it was back in the day, it would have been a different fight. But Khabib's gas tank is ungodly. Um,
Yeah,
I
it
was
really
watching
is.
videos. I was watching videos with him, and it was just he would wrestle someone and then like wrestle them until they're tired, and then boom, next round, fresh guy, wrestle him until he's tired, next guy. Those two people, they're taking a breather because they, can't handle it. Wrestling the next guy. Boom. He
Yeah,
needed
but
like
that's how actually most training goes though. That's like the
so
cycling, the opponent
yes,
cycling.
yes. So you
You want you
cycle.
want to you want you want to be the most tired person. If you're the athlete who's
Yeah,
training
so
for the
that's
fight,
the
you want to be the
thing.
most tired.
That's the thing. You want to be the most tired, but this man was wearing the people down. He's
He's
just
the
wearing
one
them
wearing
down.
everyone down.
Yeah, to where they're like, dude, I don't want to. What do you mean I'm next? Like you beat him over? Like, no, I'm not going back out there. Like, no, I'm not. Like that's it's a like extra it's like an extra level endurance that you don't really
Yeah.
see unless like you've trained for that kind of stuff like your whole life.
The other
That
good one I
is
would have liked to see is I would have liked to see Habib and Usman, like prime Usman. I would have loved that. That would have been an amazing fight. But
yeah.
I don't know. Now I'd probably favor Nurmagomedov probably way more, obviously after the defeats. But
I've
goddamn, hey,
honestly
listen, you showed out. That was that. Those are both those cards are fucking excellent. And listen, we will. I'll post on our Twitter page. Both of our cards will be up on the Twitter page. Our UFC 300 fantasy cards. Um, Along with our UFC moments of the year. We'll put all that content up on our Twitter page for viewers to look at. I'll post
do
them
you
with the episode tomorrow. So,
do you have a do you have an undercard? Do you have like just a
oh, I've
little
got honorable mentions. Yes, I do. In
yeah.
fact,
I,
oh
I
yes,
have
I do.
one. I have one for sure, and that this
Let's hear
honestly,
it.
other than the literal Khabib and St. Pierre coming back, it would be my favorite fight for sure.
What's that? Let's hear it.
Holloway Chang Sung Jung.
That's coming, bro. That's gonna happen. That's already
That's
booked.
happening, dude. Those are my
Yes,
two
it's,
favorite fights, dude. How do I not know
what?
that? Let's
Yes,
go.
I'm telling you, they're fighting in Singapore.
Let's
Korean
go,
Zombie and Max Holloway are fighting in Singapore, August like
dude.
20 something,
This is
26th.
excellent, dude. This is like,
Yeah,
dude. This is awesome,
this
dude.
is
That's
not fantasy anymore. This is real.
dude. This is my reality.
For me, for an undercard fight, I got a couple undercard fights that I would like to throw at you. So like one I like desperately would like to see is um this one's tough for me though because it is a rematch, but like I just thought it was a fucking wild fight, and I'd like to see it again. And people are gonna, if you hear this one and you don't, and people will shit on it a little bit because whatever. The expectation is one result over another, but like I really want to see Gagey and Oliveira fight again.
Yeah.
Because that fight was fucking batshit bananas for like for as long as it lasted. The whole first round was just craziness. And I know Gagey got finished, but like I would fucking love to see that.
Dude, I think they're both great fighters. I almost like wanted to mention like Gagey Chandler.
Yeah, that rematch would be fun. What about? Hold on, I got one for you. What about Gagey versus Holloway?
He's the best boxer in the UFC, baby.
What about that though? What about, because Max Holloway is probably like my second favorite fighter in the sport, but and Gagey, I love Gagey too. But what about Max and Gagey at lightweight? That would be
Dude,
fun.
I like Max, but dude, I think Gagey's got that.
Gagey's might have a little too much pop.
That's what I'm, dude, and the wrestling. Like
Nah, he won't use the wrestling against Max. Nobody can take Max down. Max has like really good
he does,
wrestling.
yeah, he knows, yeah.
He's got really good like defensive wrestling. Hold on, I've got another potential undercard fun crazy fight for you. Hold on, I had a couple pulled up. What about let's go to heavyweight. What about hold on, I got some good ones at heavyweight. So I would love to see well, Cyril Gane is booked right now, but let's just presume that nobody's booked, everybody's free. What if you put Cyril Gane in there against Jailton Almeida? Like that's some shit right there. Because Jailton, both of those guys are on the come up, but Jailton Almeida is like this scariest motherfucker right now. He is just terrifying.
You just want to see someone die.
Yeah, I want to see violence. I mean, that's just what we're talking about here. I just want to see dudes just.
I feel like I kind of just picked neat names now that I think you're just like, no, I want to someone. They're just even enough to where someone's got to go to the hospital.
I mean, hold on, I got another one for you. Hold on. Let's go to light heavyweight. I'll pick. How about this? I'll pick an undercard fight for each division. I just gave you my heavyweight. How about my light heavyweight? Let's do at light heavyweight. Let's do well, a lot of these guys have actually fought each other, which is crazy. I'd like to see Jan Blachowicz and Johnny Walker would be pretty wild. That'd be a nice little wild fight. I mean, they're gonna strike probably for the majority of it. I still think I nailed it with the Pereira and Prochazka fight. That fight would just be so fucking good. It'd be so good.
Yeah, that's a lot better than I think
that fight
that's
would be crazy.
I think that's better than my Prochazka Hill, even though the hill thing needs to be settled.
Well, the Hill thing's gonna happen. That's the difference there. Is that fight's probably gonna happen.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Another one that would be really fun. I don't know where Chimaev is at, like, because it sounds like he wants to fight at 185, but like, bro, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Hamzat Chimaev is like the fight. That's the fight. That fight is going to be, if that fight ever happens, because they're both undefeated. Rakhmonov is like 18-0 or 19-0 with fucking 100% finish rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just finishing it. So, but anyway, now I won't go through each division. We don't have time to do all that. But yeah, an undercard could be built pretty quickly, and there could be some fun to be had there. Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think that's a good fight. There's a lot of good fights out there. The sport is on fire, and I'm just so glad to see it too, because it just makes sports more fun to have like a new sport, a new exciting sport. And I know it's not that new; it's 30 years old, but like.
Yeah, but it's been
new on the map.
Yeah,
it's really come a long way. So that's our UFC 300 card with a little extra spice on it with a few undercard. Did you have any undercard, any further ones, or was that it?
Yeah, that just the one pretty much.
Yeah, that's a good one too. That's a good one to end on.
You covered a lot of really good stuff.
We did. So let's close that out. That's our UFC 300 fantasy card. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to tell you guys what's next on the Peripheral Views podcast. So hang tight. We'll be back from our last break. All right, welcome back from the final break of our sixth episode of the Peripheral Views podcast. I appreciate you guys hanging in there. We went long again. We're prone to do this, but we had a lot of fun putting this episode together. Its development stages were honestly the most fun part of it, and then recording it is obviously the cherry on top. But this was a lot of fun to do, and we plan on doing a bunch of these along the way. We'll rank films and books and um, all kinds of things. Basically, anything else that's covered in the podcast is up for grabs, and we're open to suggestions too. If there's anything you guys want to hear our rankings on, we'd love to put them in order and let you know how we feel about them in terms of their significance to us. But coming up next, we're going to move away from the ranking series and we're going to move back into the biography series. We got a nice one that we're going to be working on where we've kind of been chipping away at it. We've been talking about it for a little while now, and I think it's just about time to actually start developing it and getting things together for it. So there's going to be a little bit of a pause in the podcast for a little lengthier time than in between the last two episodes. So it'll be about a week or longer for our next episode in the biography series, and this is going to be on William E. Fairbairn, who was a British Royal Marine and police officer, most notably known for developing hand-to-hand combat methods for the Shanghai police during the interwar period. This was Errol's pick. Erroll, do you have anything preliminarily that you'd like to shine some light on about this particular content?
Oh yeah, no, nothing in particular. He's known as like the father of like modern day SWAT tactics as well as just close quarters fighting. I believe the term they use is a gutter fighting. Um,
Yep.
and it really so honestly, the UFC is a good segue into it. So I
Truly,
always
right?
thought mixed martial arts is a really good showcase into like dispatching an opponent, just showing them that you are like the better combatant. Not gutter fighting. You poke someone in the neck with a sharp object and you gouge their eye out and you like you grab them by the scrotum. You do whatever it takes to dispatch that dude in the quickest, quietest way possible. And it's it too. So here's the thing: for you to like learn that, man, you kind of got to learn it by practice, and that's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
here's the thing:
Unfortunately,
you can talk about it all you want. For it to be practical, you gotta practice.
and you
So
also
this
got to
is
be
a
about it. Yeah, you got to be. I mean,
yeah
he was quoted as saying, "There's no fair play, no rules except one: kill or be killed." So
yeah
that's
like
that's who's up
that's
next.
and like we I say that I've said that in jest. I've just said that like it's a dog eat dog world, and that man's out there like it's a dog eat dog world. Like you gotta eat the other dog. Sometimes you have to bite someone on their face, and then you
Yeah,
gotta
you
stab
got
them
to
in the
be a
neck with their
dog,
own
right?
like
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like just
or you got to
uh,
invent ways to be a more vicious dog. So, but yeah, this episode is going to be like this episode is going to be a pretty graphic one. Just a forewarning to our listeners. We're going to dive into that story, his backstory. We'll be talking a lot about that, but we're also going to be talking about what he contributed to the world of warfare and hand to hand combat in warfare, specifically World War I and trickling into World War II. So, um, gonna be a lot of darkness on that one, but that should be fun to talk about one way or the other. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
Um,
me too.
Followed up with that, we're gonna do. So we've got our next two lined up. Our follow up to that is going to be the third installment in the film series. And we're going to have a special guest on that one. Our buddy Stephen Launderville is going to jump on and he's going to talk about this film with us. And that film, we talked about it in the last podcast, is going to be 2019 from Robert Eggers, The Lighthouse. We started talking about it in the last podcast. We could
We
barely
couldn't.
contain
Yeah,
ourselves.
we're like we gotta. Why are we not just gonna talk about
Yeah.
it? So we
So that's we forcefully jammed that into our schedule. That'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. After we've done the William Fairbairn story.
man,
So
why'd you spill your beans?
what? Oh, that's
Spilled the
too.
beans with it and let them know that we're talking about the lighthouse. Why'd you spill your beans?
Yeah, we pretty much already did though. Oh, are you making a reference? Is that a
Why'd you
reference?
spill your
Your
beans?
Sylvia Beats. Oh, I
Why'd you
see.
spill your
Boy,
beans.
you love a real deep fucking reference, don't you? Like if you're
I'm sorry.
pulling those from the bowels of a film, like a film like that, a dialogue heavy film. It's great. Oh, that's classic. But yeah, so those are the legends. Those are what's coming up next. Uh, we're gonna have a bunch of fun talking about that. Steve's a great dude. He's got a lot to say about a lot of things. He'll be a great contributor to the episode. He's doing his homework on that,
Yeah,
and
he's been along for he was dude. He was like
oh, he sat in
along
on
for
our
as
old
much,
podcast
dude, as much as we
for
were on
sure.
our own podcast for the last one. He's I'm excited that Steve's coming along, and I'm jealous that he gets to. So I'm excited that I get to watch the movie again and again and again, because it is a really good movie. But Steve hasn't seen it, so
I know, yeah,
he gets to experience
it's
it
fresh, yeah. I
just
saw it in
straight.
theaters. I was happy to say that I saw it in theaters for the first time I ever saw it, which is like that's pretty clutch. I was happy about that because it is like it's a very like visceral experience, and getting to see it on the big screen was like what a privilege.
I saw it with my roommate, and there's a little bit of sexual tension.
Yeah, I can imagine that. There's some stuff going on in there.
It
We'll
wasn't
dive
like
into it.
in. Well, so the thing is, like, we're cis males, but like you watch that movie and you're like, what if we were like in the lighthouse? Like
Yeah.
maybe you would catch me getting
Where,
weird
where's
up
that
on the.
go? Where's that go in a moment like
Right.
that?
Right. I was like, I think in the hour and 30 minutes, I was like, maybe I'd been on this island the whole time. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it is a trippy film too. I mean, visually, it can be it takes you on a ride. So, but we'll talk about that. I mean, that's a 4 hour episode waiting to happen, but we'll dive
Yeah,
into
we're
that
gonna
in the
say
next
it's gonna
couple
be like,
weeks.
yeah, we'll say it's gonna be like 2 hours or 2.5 hours. And with
Yeah,
Steve here, dude, we're gonna
we're going
just,
5.
yeah, we'll
This is
hang out until
we Dan
tomorrow.
Carlin here. So that's what's coming up. I hope you guys enjoyed the fantasy card and the UFC ranks that we put on the airwaves tonight. Um, hope you'll come back in the next episode. So quick plug, you know where to find us. That is at Twitter, we're at Peripheral View 123. On SoundCloud, we are soundcloud.com/Peripheral Views 123. Contact us at Gmail if you want to send us an email, peripheralviewspodcast@gmail.com. Throw us in the old search bar at Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and subscription, and leave us a review and a positive rating. That would be super clutch. Another big special thanks to the awesome band out of Scotland, Elephant Sessions. They permitted us to use a couple of tracks on this episode and in episodes going forward. We really appreciate that, and we'll put some updates out there if they have any music coming out. So we really appreciate the support and enhancing the sound that we've got going on over here at the Peripheral Views podcast regime.
Yeah,
So
thanks, guys.
that being said, we are signing off. The 6th episode is in the books, and we appreciate you guys listening. We'll catch you on the next round of Peripheral Views podcast. See you next time.